Hey guys. This is what if Naruto realized his full potential. The old man survived the invasion and acknowledged Naruto's services to Konoha. How would the shinobi world cope with a Naruto who realizes his full potential and becomes the splendid shinobi only few believed he could be? Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 1, Recognition. Konoha no Sato. 3 days after the invasion, Naruto's eyes were fixed in an angry glare as he stormed through the village in a brisk pace, uncaring towards the villagers as he brushed past them with his shoulders. Today he wasn't in the mood to be their whipping boy. In fact, he was pissed off to the point he would most likely lash out violently if anyone pushed his buttons. It had been 3 days since the invasion, and Naruto had just about fully recovered from his fight against Gaara. Having passed out minutes after the Sand siblings' retreat, Naruto had very little to no recollection of what happened. There was an invasion, that much was obvious, and Hiruzenjiji had fought his old student, Orochimaru of the Sannin, the very same Sannin who had completely fucked up Naruto's chakra pathways during the second stage of the Chunin exam. When Naruto woke up, he found out the invasion had been defeated and that Hiruzen had forced his student in a stalemate. Orochimaru had decided to cut his losses and flee. Naruto was relieved to hear that. He knew the old man was powerful, but he was also old and fragile at age of 69. His stamina couldn't have been anywhere near Orochimaru's. He was also very confident he had earned his promotion. After all, not only had he defied the odds and defeated Hyuga, he had also defeated Sabaka no Gaara and saved both his teammates, allies, and the village in the process. For the entire first day after the finals, Naruto stayed home in case he would get his notice of promotion by messenger hawk. None came. Naruto gave it another day, but no message came his way. It wasn't until he stepped outside to buy some groceries today, when he heard news that the promotions had already been handed out. Did you hear? Uchiha Sasuke defeated that red-haired demon from Suna. He saved us. I bet he's going to get a promotion. I heard Shikaka's kid already got the bump to Chunin. Looks like the genius lives on in the next generation, huh? They should just make Uchiha-san a Jonin already. Did you see his lightning jutsu during the finals? It was amazing. I heard he's the one who summoned Gamabunta-sama. I thought Gamabunta-sama only obeyed Jiraiya-sama. Naruto clenched his fists tightly. The old man was going to get an earful today, and anyone who got in the way of him saying what he had to say better bring backup. Naruto ran up the last steps to the Hokage tower and was met by 2 Chunin guards he vaguely knew, Izumo and Kotatsu. They were alright as far as Naruto knew. They weren't like the majority of the village populace, and were genuinely nice guys, but today he didn't care about that. He couldn't bring himself to care about what anyone thought today. Hey, you're that Naruto kid, right? Izumo and Kotatsu held up their hands as Naruto was about to walk past them. Hokage-sama just got out of the hospital, and he's asked to be left alone for some time. He doesn't want to be bothered by anyone today. Move, Naruto barked the order with visible aggression. Kotatsu took offense to that. Watch your tone, kid. Show some respect to your superiors. Move, please. Izumo eyed Kotatsu for his reaction and then turned to Naruto. Hey, whatever it is that's got you pissed off doesn't give you the right to barge in here and do as you please. Naruto glared at both of them with intensity. I am 2 seconds away from beating the crap out of both you. His voice shook with barely restrained anger, and the pair of Chunin flinched, more taken back by his anger than intimidated. If you want to keep this up, prepare yourself for a few broken bones because I am done with taking your shit. Got it? The Chunin shared a glance and silently parted, allowing Naruto to gain entry. What the hell was that about? Kotatsu shrugged. It's his funeral if he wants to piss off Hokage-sama. The Hokage's secretary stood up out of her chair and adjusted her glasses with a rigid posture. How did you get in here? Nobody is supposed to bother Hokage-sama today. Noticing she was being completely ignored, the secretary shouted after him. Hey! Naruto ignored her and walked through the double doors, and slammed them to a close behind him. Gigi, I need to talk to you for a minute. Sarutobi Hiruzen sat behind his desk and was overlooking some paperwork. He was wearing his Kage robes under which his entire body was wrapped up in gauze, even his hands. The shinobi no Kami looked up and smiled at Naruto, apprehensive of his sudden barging in but wasn't surprised in the least. Naruto had never been one for manners. It was rather refreshing really, instead of the usual pleasantries and veiled meaning behind select choice of words. Naruto said what he wanted when he wanted. Hello there, Naruto-kun. You seem upset. What is it? Everything. Naruto took a seat without invitation and then got up immediately. He was too pent up to sit down, and thus began to repeatedly walk from wall to wall in the Oval Hokage office. You know, Gigi, I used to believe you when you told me things got better when I was a kid. You always said that one day people wouldn't hate me, and I believed you. I didn't know why they hated me back then, but I believed you. Hiruzen nodded slowly. Did something happen, Naruto-kun? No, yes. Naruto wasn't making a lot of sense right now. He tended to ramble whenever he was this frustrated. You know it's been my lifelong dream to take that hat of you so everyone will acknowledge me, and you can live the rest of your days in peace, don't you, Gigi? I sure do. Naruto took a deep breath, knowing he needed to stop this tantrum if he wanted the old man to take him seriously. Gigi, he said after a moment of silence, not once since I found out I was the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki have I resented the people for what they did or felt. I understand that they lost people they cared for in the attack, but that doesn't excuse them for the way they treated me my entire life, does it? No, it does not, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen affirmed with a grave expression. Naruto hadn't brought up the Kyuubi since the night he found out he was its container, thus the Sandaime knew whatever it was that was bothering him had to be serious. Still, I never resented them for never liking me as person. I mean, I didn't exactly make things better by pulling pranks on them, but this time they crossed the line, Gigi. I'm so angry I feel I'm going to explode if I don't get this off my chest. Please. Hiruzen urged him to continue. Why didn't I get the bump to Chunin, Gigi? You know I deserve it more than anyone. Naruto slammed his hands on the Hokage's desk. It wasn't an aggressive move on his part, but merely a way to vent his frustration. The Hokage raised an eyebrow at Naruto, prompting him to realize who he was speaking to. I'm sorry, Gigi. I haven't reviewed who gets promoted and who doesn't, Naruto-kun, but you seem to have a good idea who did. I've been out of commission for a few days after the botched invasion. The council has taken it unto themselves to make my job easier. Naruto took a deep breath and exhaled. He was getting his nerve back. Nara Shikamaru got promoted and I didn't. All because he surrendered when he knew he had already lost the match? Obviously he's going to give up if he's out of energy. That doesn't show him cutting his losses through strategic thinking. That shows him being logical. If he hadn't surrendered, that sand chick would have just killed him. Don't get me wrong, Shikamaru helped out big time when we went after Sasuke. But why did he get a promotion over me? I beat my opponent and then defeated Gaara, yet I didn't get promoted? I don't get it. Hiruzen eyed Naruto impassively, betraying no emotion through his calculative brown eyes as his minds went through the possibilities. Surely Shikaku's son would not have been promoted because he knew when to give up. That was common sense and logic. Of course, strategies and tactics were imperative prerequisites for any great shinobi, but Naruto had plenty of that, and he had proven so in his fight against Hyuga Neji, who was a fearsome opponent to say the least, and with a year's worth of experience over Naruto. Had the council cleared Shikaku's son for promotion just for that, because he was the son of Nara Shikaku? It wasn't a pleasant thought for the aged Hokage, not in the slightest. That's not all of it, Gigi, Naruto continued. Everyone is giving Sasuke credit for beating Gaara when it was me who did that. I beat Gaara after Sasuke got his ass handed to him, and it was me who saved Sakura-chan. What's crazy is that everybody seems to forget Sasuke didn't sign the summoning contract with Toads, so how the hell would they explain Gamabunta's appearance? Aha. It became increasingly clear to the Hokage how much Naruto had done to protect Konoha whilst he was fighting his former student, Orochimaru. Granted, Sabaku no Gaara could have been taken out by his ANBU if necessary, but for Naruto to have faced the Ichibi Jinchuriki so soon after having faced against Hyuga Neji, who did considerable damage. I'm sorry for throwing this tantrum at you, Gigi. From the looks of it, you stopped listening and I can't really blame you, so I'm just going to go and figure out what I'm going to do next. If Sasuke doesn't get promoted, then at least Team 7 isn't split up, and we can try again next year. Naruto gave the Hokage one of his rare bows. It was awkward and unrefined, but Hiruzen knew it was meant as a heartfelt apology. Naruto otherwise never engaged in formality. The blonde then turned to open the door when Hiruzen called after him. Naruto-kun, wait. Hiruzen rose out of his chair as Naruto turned to face him. I am terribly sorry your performance was overlooked, Naruto-kun. However, I did observe your match against Hyuga Neji, and I am well aware of your triumph over Sabaku no Gaara. Where are you going with this, Gigi? Naruto-kun, I have always known you will one day become a splendid shinobi worthy of assuming the mantle of Hokage. Your mastery of the Kage Bunshin along with your performance during your A-ranked mission in Nami no Kuni, coupled with the fact Jiraiya speaks highly of you, is all the evidence I need to know you are well on your way. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You know Erosenin? Hiruzen gave a croaky laugh at the nickname. Jiraiya is one of many students I have taught, Naruto-kun. I raised him along with Orochimaru as part of my first genin team. Naruto's eyes bulged comically and Hiruzen gave another croaky laugh. I assume he did not mention I was his sensei? Now then, Naruto-kun, I hereby promote you to the rank of Chunin. I will be taking care of the paperwork. Hiruzen pulled a grimace as he said it. You go home and await further instructions. GG, thank you. You won't regret promoting me, I promise. Oh, 2 hours later, Naruto's apartment. When Naruto got home, he was so excited and anxious he didn't know what to do with himself, so he decided to clean up his apartment, and then his equipment. He had just placed down the last of his polished kunai in a neat row when a ticking noise caused him to avert his gaze to the window where a messenger hawk eyed him and squawked demandingly. Naruto got to his feet and quickly opened his window, allowing the bird to stand on one leg on his windowsill as it extended its remaining limb. It squawked again, as though it had somewhere else to be, so Naruto quickly took the red scroll of its leg. Thanks. Naruto went to pet the hawk, but it nibbled at his hand impatiently, so he opened the window again and got it to leave. Go on then, Naruto pulled a sour expression, shooing the bird away just as impatiently. The winged animal tuned and left with one last squawk as he closed the window behind him and sat down on his bed. Naruto took a deep breath and exhaled shakily as he unfurled the scroll with an anxious sense of excitement. Poof! As soon as Naruto unfurled it, a column of smoke burst out, and when it cleared, Naruto noticed his bed and floor were cluttered with a lot of assorted shinobi equipment. Of course, the one that immediately caught his eye was his Chunin flak jacket and a tanto attached to a belt next to it. Naruto didn't notice his breathing had gone shallow. He could hardly believe it. Quickly, the blonde discarded his orange jacket and put on his Chunin flak jacket with a sense of glee and exhilaration. Fuck yeah! Naruto jumped excitedly with a fist pump and quickly grabbed the tanto, and made swishing movements with it. He wasn't skilled in kenjutsu, not in the slightest, but at the moment he did not care, for he had been promoted. This is awesome. Naruto unsheathed the tanto and noted immediately that though it had been cleaned thoroughly, the blade itself was rather old. Naruto frowned. Why didn't the old man give him a new one? The train of thought had him inspect his supposedly new flak jacket, and as expected, he noticed it was noticeably different. Its mesh was more durable, it had pointy shoulder pads, and the body armor frame under the fabric was both heavier and stronger than he thought it would be. Upon further inspection, Naruto retrieved an envelope from his breast pocket and quickly opened it. There were 4 documents within it. The first one was a neatly folded sheet of paper with the Konoha stamp on it, and read, Formal Notice of Promotion. Naruto unfolded the letter and began to read the following out loud. You, Naruto, it has come to our attention that you have performed admirably during your missions, and coupled with your performance during the Chunin exam, adequate mission success rate and skill set, we have deemed you qualified to join the ranks of Konoha's Niji Shotai of the Border Patrol Guard. 2. The Border Patrol Guard is a department dedicated to homeland security missions in order to monitor foreign influences in Hai no Kuni. More will be explained to you upon assignment. You are expected to report in Briefing Room 1 in the Hokage Tower, tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Your platoon leader will assign you to a team and further inform you of your duties. Sign, Shinobi Assignment Department. With a sense of euphoria, Naruto reread the letter another 2 times as he sat down on his bed. I can't believe it, I actually got promoted. Gigi pulled through for me. Naruto smiled, making a mental note to treat the old man to a meal sometime. Noticing he was subconsciously crumpling the remaining 3 letters, Naruto folded his notice of promotion and placed it back in the envelope. Took a look at the second one. It appeared to be a receipt of sorts. Recipient you, Naruto. Ninja rank Chunin. Ninja registration 01260771. The recipient has been charged with the following: 1 SI flak jacket, 1 SI tanto, 3 pairs of SI shinobi uniforms / W2 long-sleeved shirts and 1 short-sleeved shirt, 2 pairs of SI bodysuit, 1 pair of SI shinobi sandals, black, 3 packs of SI kunai, X25, 3 packs of SI shuriken, 50, 1 pack of SI explosive tags, mild, 1 pack of SI makibishi, 150 3 rolls SI, sealing scrolls 10 feet. Note: SI equals standard issue. The recipient is hereby reminded to dutifully take adequate care of all equipment issued and is expected to vigilantly maintain all equipment issued. Sign, Konoha Armory Administration. Naruto smiled to himself and took a look at all his new equipment with a content feeling. Gigi must have cleared him for this equipment, and Naruto was immensely grateful as he's sure as hell he couldn't have afforded it otherwise. Naruto decided to take the note to heart and began to pick up his newly issued equipment and laid them out on his bed, cataloging items by purpose, and then picked up the last two letters. One was a blank square sheet of paper and the other was a letter written in the familiar, neat calligraphic handwriting of the Sandaime. Thus Naruto took a look at it. Naruto, I presented your case to the Shinobi Council and they realized you did Konoha a great service in successfully participating in an A-ranked mission given by your sensei in time of war when Konoha needed you most. By the time you have gotten over your excitement, I gather you will have realized you are now a Chunin and thus one significant step closer to one day kicking me out of my office. On that note, you must have noticed by now your Chunin flak and tanto are not quite standard issue. This is because those were mine when I was a Chunin during the first Great Shinobi War, and thus are somewhat different. Naruto, I would like you to have those mementos to remember me by when the day comes I will no longer be around. Now that you are a Chunin, you will be expected to participate in tougher missions and in some cases lead squads of your own. As we both should realize by now, it is time you step up your training. I do not mean to insult you, Naruto, but you must make sure you branch out in the shinobi arts, and not just for yourself but for the people that will depend on you on the battlefield. I have taken the liberty to have you issued with standard issue equipment for all Chunin and above and have used up one of your sealing scrolls to include a variety of jutsu and chakra control exercises I believe you should take the time to learn. The other notes included in this envelope will be a receipt of all equipment issued to you and a special sheet of chakra paper that will determine what your primary affinity is. When a shinobi reaches the rank of Chunin, we present them with a sheet of chakra paper so that they can determine their nature type, or types, so that they can decide to specialize in the element they are strongest in. It is highly recommended you have gained some form of mastery over at least 2 nature types to reach the rank of Jonin. You will be expected to report to the Hokage Tower tomorrow afternoon for briefing and team assignment. Please refrain from emulating your sensei and be on time. First impressions are crucial. I know you will make me proud, Naruto. You are the future Hokage after all. Signed, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sandaime Hokage of Konoha no Sato. Naruto reread the letter again and again, taking in every word as he sat down. The old man believed in him. He truly believed in him, that he could one day become a truly splendid shinobi and assume the mantle of Hokage. In his letter, the old man expressed nothing but expecting his best efforts and dedication. He didn't feel insulted in the slightest about the old man telling him to branch out more. Naruto knew he needed more jutsu in his arsenal. He realized that when he saw Sasuke had been taught the Chidori, but now that was the furthest on his mind. This wasn't about showing up Sasuke anymore. Naruto wouldn't allow it to be. The old man had put his faith in Naruto, and he couldn't let him down now, not ever. Naruto rose out of bed and took off the flak jacket and tanto attached to his midriff by a utility belt, made sure he placed them down neatly on top of his new attire. Naruto then reached for his sealing scrolls and found one labeled with the kanji for jutsu and unfurled it. Poof! As with the previous scroll, several smaller scrolls popped into existence, each with their own label marked on them. There were 4 different scrolls. One simply read Chakra Control, read, and the remaining 3 read Genjutsu, Ninjutsu, and Fuinjutsu. Naturally, Naruto reached for the ninjutsu first as it was his strong suit, and upon unfurling it, he noticed the first jutsu on the scroll was the Shadow Clone Jutsu. Confused, Naruto began to read and noted it was copied straight from the scroll of sealing he had stolen the night he graduated. As he skimmed down, he noted with a deadpan expression that the Hokage had underlined information he hadn't taken the time to read the first time around. Shadow clones will transfer all of their memories and experience upon being destroyed or cancelled out, thus making them perfect for reconnaissance and other applications, including ninjutsu training. Fuck! Naruto stayed up late in the night going over all the jutsu he had read about. The old man included some easy chakra control exercises and some interesting applications, such as bending metal to repair a weapon, 2 jutsu of each element, various other jutsu and basic fuinjutsu so that Naruto could secure his equipment. By the time he went to sleep, Naruto could have kicked himself 1,000 times as he couldn't believe how deprived he had been. The Kage Bunshin alone was a goldmine, and the Hokage had written a note, stating Naruto was one of very few that could use the technique on a large scale as his reserves were incredible, and he never seemed to suffer from mental fatigue when his clones were dispelled in large quantities. The old man also urged Naruto to become more strategic how he used the technique and recommended devising basic tactics. The sly old fox even included a new application to the Kage Bunshin Naruto didn't know about before. Naruto also found out his element was wind, which was great since the Hokage had included 2 powerful futon jutsu Naruto could get the hang of in mere hours and mastery over in the span of days. Oh, the next day, Naruto woke up early and for the first time in his life felt completely awake mere seconds after opening his eyes. Emerging from the bathroom, he got dressed in the standard Chunin uniform he had hung to his closet. Naruto felt pride and sense of achievement as he eyed himself in the mirror, pulling on his metal-plated gloves as he did it. Naruto picked up his headband and took off his blue cloth, opting for a black one instead as it matched his attire. No longer did he look like an obnoxious eyesore. Naruto knew he was done with his attention-seeking antics the moment he put down that letter last night. It was kind of refreshing, he realized, as he pulled his utility belt over his waist, attached his pouches and holsters and strapped his tanto to the small of his back. Naruto looked into the mirror once more, astounded by the sudden change in appearance. He seemed so different, he definitely appeared more presentable. Maybe even a little older and taller, now that he didn't wear his usual bulky garb. Moreover, for once, he actually looked like a professional. Minutes later, Naruto was running over the rooftops towards the Hokage Tower. He noticed he was turning quite a few heads from both villagers and shinobi once they got over the new appearance. Naruto paid it no heed. He would have loved to boast usually, but he was short on time and wanted to make a good impression, thus he made sure to hurry up. Naruto arrived at the Hokage Tower approximately 15 minutes before his briefing was about to start. The Chunin from yesterday looked at him with raised eyebrows and expressions that conveyed mixed feelings. Naruto rubbed the back of his head, feeling a sense of embarrassment for losing his cool yesterday. Hey, sorry about yesterday, Naruto apologized, bowing his head ever so slightly. It wasn't really his thing and the Chunin knew it, but they made no comment. I was angry but I shouldn't have taken it out on you. Kotatsu eyed Izumo and nodded, smiling. It's alright. You're that Uzumaki kid, right? Naruto nodded and both Chunin shared a good laugh at that. Naruto frowned, about to make a snide comment of his own when Kotatsu shook his head. Sorry, we were just thinking. That match you had with that Hyuga kid? Priceless. We were stationed below the Hyuga's private deck, and you should have seen the look on their faces when you won that match. Oh, thanks. Naruto gave them a smile of his own. It was nice to get some recognition for once. Yeah, that was a great one, Izumo agreed. The Chunin shared another glance and Kotatsu nodded, prompting Izumo to ask, so is it true? Is what true? Naruto asked. Come on. Izumo urged him. Naruto gave them a confused look. What? Word has it you fought alongside Uchiha Sasuke and Shikaka's kid against that Gaara kid. I've heard a lot of different stories, but word has it Sasuke beat him. Is that true? No. Naruto bit out the answer with an agitated frown. Then who did? Kotatsu asked. I did. The Chunin looked at each other again and burst out laughing. It ticked Naruto off, but he refused to let his temper get the best of him, not on the first day of being Chunin. He couldn't disappoint the old man so soon. What's so funny? He demanded instead. Kotatsu abruptly stopped laughing. You're serious, aren't you? No way. Izumo shook his head. Why the hell do you think I'm wearing this flak jacket? Naruto gestured to his uniform. Though they found his flak odd, they couldn't help but laugh embarrassedly. Sorry about that, Kotatsu apologized. It's not a big deal, Naruto lied. He was anxious to get going so he brushed past them. I'd love to talk some more but I've got to report for briefing and assignment. As the rookie Chunin walked away, Kotatsu and Izumo looked at each other with incredulous expressions. So he really did beat Sabaku no Gaara and Hyuga Niji? Kotatsu feigned a shuddered, getting a laugh out of his partner. That kid is going places, Izumo. We need to watch out before he gets promoted to Jonin before we do. Izumo chuckled and waved him off. He's good, but he's not that good, is he? Oh, 10 minutes later, briefing room 1. The briefing room was similar to the academy in terms of structure, though it was much larger and could probably hold up to twice as many people. In addition, instead of shelves of textbooks, there were many maps of Hai no Kuni and the entire continent, as well as a bulletin board with sheets of paper stuck to them. Naruto sat behind a desk in the room full of shinobi, feeling as though he was back in academy and counted about 40 in the room. Looking around, he noticed most were Chunin, and the majority of them were around his age. He recognized quite a few of them from the academy when he was younger. As Naruto expected, Shikamaru was also present. He sat a few rows behind him, for once actually sitting up straight and not dozing off and diligently making notes, as the rest of them were. Okay, looks like everyone is here, said a tall, bulky, bald shinobi standing behind a lectern in the front of the room. Alright then, men, today we are joined by 2 rookies. Naro, Shikamaru, and Uzumaki Naruto are the only ones to have passed the exams this year. Quite a few found his amusing and sniggered, prompting the bald shinobi to cough to keep their attention. As pitiful as that may sound, this year's competition was tough. That's not important though, the man continued. For the newbies, my name is Kiza Enro and I am the platoon leader of the Niji Shotai. Enro was tall and muscular with a shaven head adorned with a deep scar running over his scalp and right eye. He was dressed in the regular uniform and wore a white piece of cloth with platoon leader stamped on it and red kanji attached under his flak jacket much like a suma. Naruto got a few looks. Few held contempt in their eyes, but the majority of the shinobi were around his age and had thus never been told about the Kyuubi. If they had something against Naruto, it was either because he pulled a prank on them or because their parents told them slanderous things about him. Either way, he wouldn't let it get to him, not this time around. I'll keep it brief for the two rookies, Kizu announced. The Niji Shotai is the highest numbered platoon in Konoha's border patrol guard and consists out of Chunin, Tokubetsu Jonin, and a handful fully fledged Jonin. The better your performance, the more likely you'll be put into lower digits for tougher missions. As the 20th platoon, we are assigned mostly with the grunt work of our central government's homeland security, so expect to be out and about on border patrol most of the time. Kiza looked at the notes placed on his lectern and nodded. First order of business, make sure to make notes. Teams 305 to 307, you already got your orders yesterday. Get going and good hunting. Naruto noted each squad had 5 members as 15 shinobi got up and left the room. Teams 308 to 310, you're cleared for border patrol for the next 3 weeks. Another 15 Chunin rose and left the briefing room, leaving 15 Chunin left, not counting Kizu and his 2 assistants. Team 311, you just returned from your mission. You guys are cleared for some R&R. I'll see you in a few days. Another 5 rose out of their seat, leaving Naruto with Shikamaru and 3 others remaining. You guys, Enro addressed the remaining 5 shinobi in the room, you are now official the 312th team of the guard. Tsurugaku, you're the senior, so consider yourself promoted to team leader until further notice. Congratulations. Kiza nodded to a tall Chunin with spiky brown hair and dark eyes seated a row in front of Naruto and walked up to his desk, dropping 2 files on his desk. Here are their files. Team 312, you guys have a week to get familiar with one another before I set you on your first mission. Tsurugaku showed those newbies the ropes. I'm trusting you with this one. Tsurugaku stood up and nodded, accepting the 2 files Kiza passed him. Understood, sir. Naruto turned around with a smile to Shikamaru, who shot him a lazy smile of his own. At the very least they knew someone in the squad. That would make things considerably easier. Tsurugaku turned to them and cleared his throat. Nara, Uzumaki, Hayes, Nakamura, follow me. Naruto rose out of his desk, sharing a glance with Shikamaru, who merely nodded and followed the rest of the team. 20 minutes later, Training Ground 22. On their way to the training ground, Naruto and Shikamaru were silent whilst the remaining 3, who were already familiar with one another, spoke a few words. They arrived at the training ground and sat down under a tree as Tsurugaku cleared his throat again. Alright, let's get started, the team leader announced, addressing Naruto and Shikamaru in particular. I am already familiar with Hayes and Nakamura, but since you two are new, I believe a team-building exercise is in order. I will begin. My name is Tsurugaku Tsuzumi and I will be your team leader, TL for short. You may address me as Taicho during missions and Senpai during downtime. I am 22 years old, I enjoy good literature and strategic board games. I specialize in sabotage and setting up traps with my explosive ninjutsu. I have an affinity for fire. My ambition is to one day join the ranks of ANBU. You left out you're the oldest in our division, Hayes pointed out with a laugh. Then turning to the rookies he added, Tsuzumi here hasn't gotten promoted once since he joined the division 4 years ago. Tsurugaku cleared his throat with a not-so-subtle glare at Hayes. Yes, I am the most experienced member of the Niji Shotai, and I have yet to be promoted due to the fact my experience is needed in our division. Before Hayes could retort, the Chunin then added, Why don't you go next, Hayes? Hayes was a teenage Chunin with silky bluish-gray hair going down the right side of his face and gray eyes. He had tan skin and flamboyant air about him. Fine. My name is Hayes, I am currently 17 years old and my hobbies include promiscuity and ninjutsu. I specialize in earth jutsu and sabotage just like Senpai over here, though I'm brushing up my kenjutsu. Hayes emphasized his point by resisting a hand one of his twin kodachi strapped over his shoulder. As for my ambitions? Bang 100 chicks before I reach 30. At your rate, try 3,000, Nakamura commented with a tone of disgust Naruto could relate to. He wasn't sure whether he liked Hayes. The guy looked energetic and friendly, but he was somewhat of a tool. Nakamura Rei was an attractive purple-haired kunoichi with pale skin and violet eyes. She was one of the few kunoichi that were present, and wore a slit skirt with skin-tight shorts and stockings instead of shinobi trousers and carried a backpack rather than pouches. I'll go next. My name is Nakamura Rei. I am 14 years old and have been a chunin for 7 months. My hobbies include art, cooking and gardening. My affinity is water. I specialize in medical ninjutsu and genjutsu. Naruto smiled. At least he's something in common with one of his new teammates. Tsurugaku seemed to be very ambitious and loved authority. Hayes reminded him of Akiba if he loved women as much as dogs. But at the very least Rei seemed normal, and she liked gardening, as did he. That, and she was very attractive, cuter than Sakura, so that was definitely a plus. Tsurugaku cleared his throat again. Naruto was beginning to dislike that habit. Now then, Nara Uzumaki, you two take turns. Please tell us about yourself so I can see if your files are up to date. Shikamaru looked at Naruto, and then sighed. My name is Nara Shikamaru. I am 13 years old and my hobbies include shogi and cloud watching. As for my affinity, I don't know what it is. I specialize in my clan's shadow possession jutsu and tactics. My goal is to join Konoha's strategic department. Tsurugaku took a look at Shikamaru's folder and nodded repeatedly. From what I understand, you graduated second to last in your class, after Uzumaki Naruto here, who was the dead last of your year. The senior chunin seemed rather disappointed to have been saddled with the two worst students of their year. How did you two pass? It was a rhetorical question they did answer, and he continued reading the file. Your sensei was Sarutobi Asuma, the Hokage's son? That explains your promotion at least. Tsurugaku raised an eyebrow as he read out loud. Incredible! An IQ over 200. Noted to have incredible tactical and strategic mindset. Son of Nara Shikaku. Impressive. I can see Asuma did a great job teaching you. It was just as Asuma was mentioned when Shikamaru brushed his ear. Naruto noticed the shadow user's new earrings were most likely a parting gift. He hadn't got one from Kakashi, then again Kakashi probably didn't know he was promoted. Naruto made a note to seek his old team after they were done here. Brainy, huh? Looks like this kid is smarter than you, senpai. Hayes grinned at Tsurugaku, who seemed rather perturbed by this. Alright, looks like I'm last. Naruto took a moment to formulate his thoughts. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I'm also 13 years old and my hobbies include gardening and pulling pranks. I have an affinity for wind and I specialize in ninjutsu, and I'm also decent at taijutsu. I suppose my ninjutsu is somewhat lacking, but I'm working on it. My dream is to one day become Hokage and protect the village from its enemies. Ah yes, Hokage. There was a tone of condescension in Tsurugaku's voice as he sat down on a log post and placed Shikamaru's folder on the floor and picked up Naruto as Hayes took a glance at the shadow user's files. Okay, let's see. Tsurugaku frowned and turned the folder for everyone to see. You might want to submit a different picture for your file, Uzumaki. Naruto laughed at the picture of himself with white and red face paint, and Hayes burst out laughing whilst Shikamaru and Rei merely cracked a smile. Yeah, I'll think about it. Don't think about it, do it. Consider that your first order. Tsurugaku frowned at him and continued to read out loud to share the information. Dead last of your year, multiple infractions of misconduct in academy, characteristics ranging from immature to impatient and impulsive. Tsurugaku looked at him with barely veiled contempt. Naruto was pretty much the anti-version of himself. Naruto rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment as Rei and Hayes looked at him as though they already knew he was going to be a burden to his team. Shikamaru, on the other hand, smiled at Naruto, having known him since childhood and having recently acquired a lot more respect for the blonde. The shadow user knew full well Naruto was going to be anything but a burden to the team. How in the hell did you get assigned to A-ranked missions? At this, his new teammates shared confused looks. Tsurugaku began to read more and then made a sound of understanding. I see, your sensei was none other Hatake Kakashi and you were on the same team as Uchiha Sasuke. That explains it. Naruto frowned at that. No, it doesn't. It came out sounding ruder than he thought and Tsurugaku didn't take kindly to it. Excuse me? Your file indicates you are insubordinate and immature, with little to no talent. How did you even get promoted? I heard you defeated Hyuganiji, but I had my doubts. This just confirms it. Shikamaru turned to Naruto. He makes a good point. You weren't at the ceremony. How did you get promoted? I went to the old man and I Naruto wasn't proud of saying it, demanded he promote me, sort of. Sort of? Hayes chuckled. Tsurugaki gave Naruto a cold look. I suggest you learn some respect and stop lying, Uzumaki. If you so much as raised your voice at Hokage-sama, you would have been thrown in detention, not promoted. You won't impress anyone with being a braggart and a liar. Let's just say we're close, Naruto replied vaguely. He doubted they would believe him if he told them exactly how close he was to the old man. And like I said, Uchiha Sasuke being on my team has nothing to do with the fact I got promoted. If it did, don't you think he would be here too? Or what, do you think he got promoted to Jonin before you? There a sting to that comment that struck a few chords with Tsurugaku, who flipped over a few pages. It says right here, Uchiha Sasuke defeated two Chunin known as the Demon Brothers from Kirigakure, defeated Momochi Zabuza's protege and assisted Hatake Kakashi in defeating Momochi, who is one of the 7 swordsmen of Kirigakure, I might add, all in one A-ranked mission you just happened to be a part of. Hayes and Rei seemed genuinely surprised, and Shikamaru gave Naruto a curious look. He hadn't heard much about Team 7's first A-ranked mission either. Tsurugaku continued with a glare aimed at Naruto. And then, there's records of him defeating Sabaku no Gaara, and saving Konoha and several allies, including you, in the process. That's not what happened, Naruto said through gritted teeth. Yes, Sasuke beat the Demon Brothers, but we both helped Kakashi-sensei beat Zabuza the first time around. The second time it was all Kakashi-sensei. As for Zabuza's protege, his name was Haku, and he defeated both me and Sasuke before I managed to beat him with luck the second time around. And I'm sure you also beat Sabaku no Gaara, Tsurugaku inferred sarcastically, getting a chuckle out of Hayes and an impassive stare from Rei directed at Naruto. He did beat Sabaku no Gaara, Shikamaru interrupted, cutting of Naruto's retort. He did? Hayes asked with a somewhat dumbfounded expression. Rei looked at Naruto as though he was some fascinating creature. Him? Shikamaru sighed, annoyed he was getting involved in this. Yes, I was on the same A-ranked mission to assist Uchiha Sasuke. He was losing the fight until Naruto ended up saving him. Who do you think summoned that huge toad? Gamabunta-sama was summoned by Jiraiya-sama. He is the only one alive with the toad's summoning contract. Maybe you didn't notice, but Jiraiya-sama was summoning his toads right in the village when Orochimaru attacked. Tsurugaku pointed out heatedly. There is no way this loser did anything that great. Naruto got to his feet aggressively. He had just about enough. What is your problem, Dash? Naruto, let it go, Shikamaru interrupted him again. Being one of the few that Naruto could genuinely call a friend, he understood why Naruto was so angry. After all, Sasuke had been beating him in everything since academy days. He realized how the blonde had to feel frustrated, to say the least, to have his one win, his promotion, be associated with Sasuke. Still, this was their first day as Chunin, and Naruto couldn't just go and piss off their team leader. It's obvious they won't believe you. Just prove to them how strong you are when the opportunity arises. Naruto glared at the shadow user but couldn't help but agree, and thus settled down. Fine, think what you want, Tsurugaku-senpai. I'll make you eat those words someday. Tsurugaku ignored that remark as he got his feet and clapped his hands together. Now then, let's familiar with team formations and tactics. These two need to get familiar with our teamwork. Hayes groaned. Great. Oh, 2 hours later. Okay, that's it for today, team. Tomorrow, we'll put the theory to practice. Dismissed. Naruto got up from the ground and put back on his flak jacket, having discarded it when it got too hot. They had been going over nothing but tactics at a snail's pace. It was as if Tsurugaku thought they were completely stupid. Naruto decided by the end, he didn't like Tsurugaku in the slightest. Never mind the fact he thought all of his accomplishments were Sasuke's. The guy was just generally just an ass to Naruto. Hayes was alright. Naruto didn't mind his attitude in the slightest. Rei didn't seem to think much of him, but he was fine with it considering most people were like that towards him initially, and it only encouraged him to prove them wrong. It went without saying he was closest to Shikamaru on the team. They would probably grow closer now that they were on the same team. They got along nicely when they were kids but were pretty much strangers by the time they left academy for various reasons. I'll see you tomorrow, Shika. I've got to go to Kakashi-sensei and say goodbye to my old team. Shikamaru merely nodded. Sure, but would you mind telling me why your flak is different from mine before you go? It looks heavier. This is Gigi's old flak jacket from when he was a Chunin like a century ago. He also gave me his old tanto. Naruto indicated blade attached to the flak jacket by a belt. Cool, huh? Shikamaru smiled lazily. I'll never understand why Hokage-sama likes you so much. It's because I'm the one who's going to let him retire. See ya, Shika. With that, Naruto took off, running towards Team Kakashi's usual training ground. Naruto arrived at training ground 7 minutes later and saw Kakashi reading his book whilst instructing Sasuke, who was fighting his clone, as Sakura cheered on her teammate. It was as if nothing had changed. The only difference would have been Naruto cheering for Kakashi's clone instead of Sasuke, which would usually get him a pummeling from Sakura. The thought brought a genuine smile to his face. Kakashi looked up from his book as Naruto held up his hand in greeting. The Jonin smiled lazily behind his mask and his clone caught Sasuke's fist, causing him and Sakura to notice Naruto had arrived. The Scarecrow had to admit, Naruto looked a lot more like the Yondaime than usual in his standard Konoha uniform. The Knucklehead Ninja appeared more confident and somewhat more mature, maybe even a little taller. Naruto? Sakura looked at Sasuke as though to confirm it was really her teammate. Why are you wearing that uniform? You got promoted, didn't you? Naruto came to a stop in front of his team and smiled proudly. I got promoted yesterday. Sorry I didn't tell you, it was sort of last minute, Sakura-chan. The Rosette shared glances with Sasuke and looked like she was about to try dispelling a genjutsu. I'm serious. I really got promoted. Gigi himself promoted me yesterday. Sakura gave her sensei a wide-eyed look. Is it true, Kakashi-sensei? Did Naruto really get promoted? Kakashi nodded. Before me and Sasuke? Naruto frowned. What's that supposed to mean, Sakura-chan? Gigi told me I earned this promotion, and he even gave me his old flak jacket. Naruto emphasized his point by indicating his uniform. I'm sorry, Naruto, that sounded really mean. I'm just surprised you're the only one that got promoted. I mean, not even Sasuke or Neji got promoted. Naruto was about to retort he actually beat his opponent, but let it go. He still had feelings for Sakura and he didn't want to upset her, nor did he want to ruin this moment. Sasuke looked at Naruto with an arrogant smile, the very same he had when he told Naruto he wanted to fight him the most during the finals. Congratulations, you earned it. Naruto was taken back. Did that just happen? Sasuke never congratulated him on anything before. Thanks, Naruto grinned at the raven-haired genin. Naruto thought back to a few weeks after they graduated, and the Uchiha had saved him again during one of their missions. If you don't want to owe me, surpass me. Those were the words Sasuke had said to him. It was the first time Sasuke acknowledged him as a potential rival. That seemed to do it for Sakura, who nodded and kindly smiled at him. Congratulations, Naruto. Kakashi put away his book and took a thoughtful pose. I suppose tradition dictates I give you a present, but what could I give you? The Chidori, Naruto thought immediately. You don't need to give me anything, Kakashi-sensei. I'm just glad I got promoted, though it looks like I'm going to have a tough time getting my teammates to like me. Kakashi gave Naruto a curious look and Naruto subtly shook his head, indicating it wasn't because of his status as a Jinchuriki. Let me guess, your teammates are people you have pulled a prank on. Naruto laughed. No, that's not it. It's actually kind of funny. For the next few minutes, Naruto told them all about his teammates and how he got promoted. He had the sense to tone down on Sarugaku's attitude towards him to not alarm his team. Shikamaru got promoted too. Sakura's tone was disbelieving and it was getting annoying, but Naruto let it go. The two lowest scoring genin in our class got promoted to Chunin. That's kind of ironic, isn't it? Well, Shikamaru just never tried, Sakura-chan. He's really smart, but he's just as lazy, so he doesn't seem dangerous. Though, that's the scary part. Naruto came to the shadow user's defense. They were now teammates after all. As for me, Naruto grinned. If I knew how to use a Kage Bunshin, I would have passed the first time around. Kakashi chuckled at that. So this Sarugaku doesn't like you very much? No, he doesn't. Naruto laughed nervously as Sasuke and Sakura gave him disapproving looks. It's really not my fault. It isn't, he added forcibly when they kept looking at him like that. He thinks everything I've done, Sasuke did. Sasuke glared at no one in particular, and they wisely choose not to comment on that. For the rest of the afternoon, Naruto stayed with his old team. It got nostalgic. Even Sasuke seemed bothered by the fact he was leaving, though hell would freeze over twice before he would admit it. Kakashi looked up as Hawk flew by. It looks like we're being summoned for a mission, Naruto. It's been nice seeing you again. Make sure to drop by every now and then. Somebody needs to keep Sasuke on his guard. Sasuke got to his feet and grabbed his backpack and nodded to him while Sakura bid Naruto goodbye. For a moment Naruto looked at his old team as they left, a wave of nostalgia crashing over him as he could hardly believe this was really happening. In the few months they had been together, Naruto felt he had really bonded with them, and to see them leave made his heart feel heavy. Naruto cupped his hands to his mouth. Sasuke, In the distance, the Uchiha turned around with a questioning look. What is it? Naruto smiled. I'll see you at the top. For a moment Sasuke was expressionless. Then, a smile crept to his features as he locked eyes with Naruto and began to smile slowly. I'll see you there. Naruto clenched his fists as his old teammates disappeared out sight, feeling a mix of emotions ranging from anxiousness to excitement. He stood there for a few minutes, unmoving and deep in thought as he dealt with the nostalgia that came to surface. Naruto smiled. Just because he outranked them now didn't mean they would stop getting stronger. He had to continue getting stronger, both for himself and for his old team. Naruto reached to the small of his back and reached into his pouch, retrieving the scroll containing Jutsu. Tanzakugai Bunshin no Jutsu, Chapter 2, hit the ground running. 1 week later, Hokage Tower. Knock. Knock. Enter. Naruto pushed through the double doors, a greeting smile on his face as he entered spacious office of the Hokage. The old man was seated, eyes glancing over a file in his hand which he placed on his desk and stamped with his seal. GG. Hiruzen's eyes rested on Naruto's somewhat disheveled form, noticing a few smudges of dirt and mud here and there. When I said I wanted to see you after your mission, I didn't mean straight away, Naruto-kun. I know, GG, but I don't mind. Naruto drew a chair, oblivious to the Hokage's mindful eye of his luxurious furniture under a dirty pair of trousers. So, what did you want to see me about? The Hokage leaned back into his chair and curled his fingers. How was your first mission as a Chunin? Not too much trouble, I suspect? Naruto shook his head. It was pretty boring, but being in the countryside was kind of refreshing. I see. Well, with time and experience you may very well be issued with tougher missions to complete, the Hokage told him. But for the time being, you are yet a rookie, Naruto-kun. You'll have to deal with whatever mission you're set with. Naruto nodded. I understand, GG. Good. The old man nodded approvingly. For a moment it seemed that was all the old man wanted. Thus Naruto rose out of his chair with a nod. However, Hiruzen held up a hand. One moment, Naruto. I must regrettably inform you, your promotion has come at an unfortunate time. Naruto was confused but asked no question. Thus Hiruzen continued, due to recent events you're going to have a lot on your plate. Missions will be coming in non-stop for the time being, and there's a good chance even your downtime will be spent running errands. I suggest you take the time to rest properly whenever you can. Even as a rookie you will be expected to hit the ground running, Naruto-kun. Why's that, GG? Well, the Hokage leaned back into his chair for a moment. Konoha needs to prove that the invasion has done nothing to impede our efforts in maintaining our place amongst the great 5 shinobi villages. Therefore it is imperative we appear 100% operational at all times. So we're basically flexing our muscles to keep the other villages on their toes? Naruto inferred. Naruto scratched his cheek. Heh, must be Shika's influence on me. Don't sell yourself short, Naruto-kun. You may not have an IQ exceeding 200, but when it comes down to it, you are a fighting genius. Hiruzen's tone was surprisingly firm. Naruto nodded with a stronger sense of confidence. On the way here I noticed a lot of civilian work crews. Does that mean the daimyo coughed up funds for repairing the damage from the invasion? Indeed, Hiruzen nodded. I won't bore you with the details, but as you may already know it can be quite cumbersome to secure additional funds from our daimyo. Fortunately, the Shodai drafted several clauses when Konoha was formed. Amongst those clauses, there are quite a few we can invoke in instances such as these. Ahu, I see. Naruto turned to see the Hokage's aide walk in with a stack of paperwork. The old man's expression instantly fell. Well, I'll leave you to it, GG. I'll swing by soon. I already look forward to it, the old man grumbled as his eyes laid on the pile of paperwork, as though willing it to spontaneously burst into flames. 3 weeks later, Hai no Kuni countryside. In the woodlands and Fire Country's countryside, Naruto stumbled tiredly to the source of water in the distance. Moments later, the blonde knelt down by a stream, sinking his tanto in the soil as he eyed the water closely. He reached into his pouch and withdrew a small canister of light blue pills and dropped 3 into the stream. The immediately following fizzy noise was as a result of a chemical reaction the pills set off to clear the water of toxins and other impurities. These pills were usually used by shinobi in foreign countries, but one could never be too certain. It was one of the many things he picked up over the last few weeks. Most seemed rather mundane, but in reality were rather sensible. For instance, the tanto stabbed in the ground would, if left there, would tip off his teammates something had happened, such as a surprise attack for instance. Naruto waited for the water to clear up some more, and then submerged his hands into the stream, filling them with water and splashed some on his face to rub the dirt off the dirt and fatigue. He allowed himself a minute to idly stare into his reflection, then reached for his canteen to fill it up with water as his mind wandered. Another scouting mission. Team 312 had been deployed on mission after mission for the past 2 weeks. It was almost as if their platoon leader, or PL for short, was making them catch up for the week off he had given them to familiarize themselves with team procedures. Naruto hadn't seen his old team in weeks, or any of his other peers for that matter. It was just like the old man had told him it would be. The Hidden Leaf had to be wary of others' villages that would jump at the chance to take them down and usurp their place amongst the Great Five. The scouting missions they were sent on were more often than not uneventful and boring, but Naruto knew it was simply flexing the muscles on Konoha's part. By appearing to be fully operational and vigilant at the same time, the other villages would watch their step. Unfortunately, increased shinobi appearance throughout High no Kuni required more manpower, and with the significant loss of shinobi in the last invasion, this meant all shinobi of Chunin rank and higher would be working almost non-stop. This particular scouting mission was a bitch to handle though. In 72 hours they had to cover 80 miles to their sign-off point, and another 80 back to Konoha. 1. A rustling noise in the background alerted him, causing Naruto to instantly thrust a kunai from his sleeve. It was a nice piece of mechanism Hayes showed him to create with a bit of ninja wire and a spring set. Relax, it's just me. Shikamaru knelt down next to Naruto and took the blonde's canteen out of his hand without asking, and took a swing. Sure, Shika, no problem. Have a drink, what's mine is yours. Naruto's deadpan expression did not reflect his words. Swiping back his canteen and fixing it to his utility belt, Naruto stood up as the shadow user cleansed his face from dirt and fatigue. I thought take 5 meant take a 5-minute break. What, did Tsurugaku forget how to tell time? You should make more of an effort to get along, Shikamaru told him, also getting to his feet after refilling his own canteen. Anyway, from the looks of it we'll be going home early. I doubt it. Naruto shook his head with a wry smile at the thought that was too good to be true. If Tsurugaku so much as arrives a second early, he'll get all agitated. The guy doesn't want to appear to not be doing his job. You know that as well as I do, Shikamaru. Shikamaru shook his head. I bet you 1,000 ryo I'm right. 2. You never gamble. Naruto's eyes narrowed suspiciously. You're trying to take me for a fool, aren't you? You shifty bastard. Wouldn't take much effort, Shikamaru commented under his breath. What? Nothing. Let's just say we found something interesting that'll be enough incentive for Tsurugaku to let us wrap up this mission up early. Naruto swung his backpack over his shoulders. Well then, let's go and see. Moments later, Naruto's stomach churned at the sight of 3 decapitated corpses that appeared to have just been unearthed. Tsurugaku was unperturbed, having probably encountered situations like these before. He knelt down by the decomposing bodies as he swiped away some flies. Aren't they just lovely? Hayes sighed dreamily. I was just minding my own business, you know, taking a leak, and on my way back I stumbled over some uneven earth, and just like that I saw a toe sticking out. How Hayes found this funny, Naruto didn't know, but he was afraid to ask. Whoever tried to ditch these bodies obviously didn't do that good of a job. I mean, they were barely a foot deep. The bodies appear to have been here for a few days. Ray droned in what Naruto assumed was her doctor voice as she took out a notebook and a camera and slipped on some latex gloves. All 3 subjects indicate their decapitation was post-mortem. Their skins bear many scars, some of which have already faded. Whatever business they were in, it was rough. Rough business, huh? Tsurugaku reached for Rei's backpack and retrieved a pair of latex gloves, slipping them on and peeling away the kimono one of the corpses was wearing. Just as I thought, these guys were members of a yakuza. Naruto raised an eyebrow and knelt next to his senior, pinching the bridge of his nose as he did so. What makes you think that? See these marks? Tsurugaku tapped a finger on the man's neck. Under the grimy dirt, Naruto could vaguely read the kanji for Kurodagumi. Ahu. Looks like they got what was coming to them. Naruto didn't feel sympathy for the deceased. They probably weren't the best of folks anyway. Standard procedure is to document this and send a copy to the nearest settlements, right? Right, Ray confirmed. I will begin with documenting. I'll make a copy for the nearest. That won't be necessary, Nakamura, Tsurugaku decided. The nearest settlement is Tanzakugai, a city well known for its casinos, red light districts, and their yakuza organizations. Something tells me these 3 weren't just some low-life thugs. What gave that away? The 3 dead bodies buried miles outside the city outskirts. Hayes interjected sarcastically. They're too well dressed, Tsurugaku finished, and he made a good point. Though they were covered in dirt, these men were buried in some expensive-looking clothing. They couldn't have been the regular, dime-a-dozen kind of thugs. The marks around hands and fingers indicated they were also stripped from their jewelry by whoever buried them out here. We're going to document this. but we're not sending a copy to Tanzakugai's police department. We're going to report back to our PL and he'll decide what we'll do next." Naruto eyed Shikamaru for a response. The lazy genius merely shrugged indifferently, so Naruto tried anyway. Standard procedure. Standard procedure is to follow the chain of command, Uzumaki. Surugaku cut him off. As TL, this is my call to make and I'm making it. Nakamura, I'll be waiting for your report back at camp. Hayes, help me pack up, you two rookies stay with Nakamura. Surugaku left no room for argument and left quickly after giving instructions, with Hayes right behind him. Naruto glared at the retreating form of Surugaku. That guy has issues. Rei shrugged as she dutifully took notes. Uzumaki, let it be. He's the TL, he gets to call the shots, not you. I didn't say, let it go, Naruto. Shikamaru fell in to avoid another argument. We're the rookies here, let them decide how and what. It's his ass on the line anyway, fine. That doesn't mean I have to like it though. Naruto leaned against tree and took watch as Rei began to take pictures with her camera and made notes. 3 weeks in and he still hadn't made much progress in getting along with his teammates. It went without saying, he and Shikamaru got along fine as they used to be rather good friends as kids, but the other 3 were different. Rei was unusually cold and shot him down whenever he tried to talk to her. Hayes was so much like Jiraiya, there were very few conversations they had that wasn't strictly about girls, which made the guy an obnoxious tool, and Surugaku, well, he was a lost cause from the get-go. Naruto could only hope he would earn his promotion early and get the hell out of the border patrol guard, as it was neither interesting nor challenging, as he had hoped. Oh, the next day, Naruto woke up in his apartment a little later than usual, having arrived home only a few hours into the early morning. The journey back to Konoha was uneventful and boring, much like the majority of scouting missions they were assigned to. As per usual, Naruto headed to Ichiraku's for a few bowls before heading back to his apartment, tired and smelly. Perhaps he shouldn't have stayed up a little longer to learn the principles behind water-based ninjutsu. Fatigued, Naruto stumbled into his kitchen, setting on some coffee, and went into the bathroom to get freshened up. It struck him with a sense of relief today his team would get switched off scout rotation for a couple of days. Even with his immense stamina, scouting mission took it out of him mentally as much as physically. Naruto ate his fill. As he ate, he took out a scroll on water-based ninjutsu and continued to read up on an offensive water-type ninjutsu that could prove useful against multiple opponents. The principle was somewhat familiar to a few wind-based ninjutsu he had gotten down in past weeks, so it wouldn't take too long to get it down. He kept a mindful eye on the clock in his kitchen. I'd better get going if I don't want Surugaku to bitch at me all day again. Naruto rushed out of his apartment and took to the rooftops as he headed towards the Hokage Tower for today's briefing. Today Team 312 would be put off scouting rotation. Usually each team went on deployment for 3 weeks, and then got downtime for another week before being put back on the scouting roster. Though his team had only been on 2 weeks' worth of scouting missions, they were still on the roster scheduled for downtime, which had also been cut down to 4 days, rather a full week, to compensate for Konoha's efforts in maintaining 100% functionality. You're actually on time for once, Shikamaru noted a few minutes later. Morning to you too, Naruto responded dryly. Where are the others? Naruto looked around. They were standing outside the Hokage Tower, and it seemed none of his teammates were around. Inside? Inside, Shikamaru nodded. I told them I'd wait out here for you. I was late once, Shikamaru. Once, Naruto shook his head as he brushed past Shikamaru and walked into the huge cylinder-shaped tower in which the Hokage resided. We're scheduled for downtime today, right? Shikamaru shrugged. I don't know. What do you know? A whole lot more than you, that's for sure. Shikamaru put very little effort in his comebacks, yet they still always managed to bother Naruto, who in this instance opted to flip off his perpetually lazy teammate as they walked side by side. Still, Naruto had to hand it to Shikamaru. The lazy genius was knowledgeable on a lot of things, having grown up with a well-known shinobi strategist father and a mother who was a qualified chunin, not to mention hailing from one Konoha's most prominent shinobi clans. Much of this knowledge on the shinobi world, Shikamaru had shared with Naruto. Prior to his promotion, Naruto had the simplistic understanding that one could become a Kage simply by traversing the ranks between Genin to Jonin and eventually be appointed by the current Hokage. How wrong he had been. Shikamaru explained to him that such a system simply wouldn't work with a powerful shinobi village as Konoha, which had thousands of shinobi within its ranks. His ignorance wasn't necessarily his fault though, not if you consider the fact military structure wasn't even covered in the academy, and if it was, he probably slept through or missed those lessons, nor did Kakashi take the time to explain it to his team like Asuma had done for Shikamaru, Ino, and Choji. With Naruto's assistance and a handbook from Rei, Naruto came to understand Konoha's military force was divided into various departments, organizations, divisions, and so on. To name a few, Konoha had its Border Patrol Guard, the Intelligence Department, Interrogation and Torture Force, and Cryptanalysis Division, each dedicated to covering Konoha on certain field they specialized in. To realize his dream, Naruto would not only have to simply be promoted to Jonin, he would have to be promoted to more prominent organizations within Konoha's shinobi ranks in order to gain support from his peers and to become a well-rounded shinobi knowledgeable of all shinobi playing fields. In short, a viable candidate for the seat of Hokage, a position upon which the daimyo, his delegates, and Konoha's elite convened on. What Naruto found particularly interesting was that each sect within Konoha's military structure had its own traditions and codes of conduct. For example, the elitists from Intelligence Department always wore gray military-esque uniforms with face masks or bandages covered around their faces and wore a very few choice words. The intimidating, and questionably sane, members of Torture and Interrogation Force wore the same sort of military suits under black trench coats and bandanas, often to hide their own hideous scars. Members of the Marine Division, Naruto had no idea Konoha even had a Marine Division, always wore blue garb over their wetsuits and had water apparatuses on their waists at all times. Naruto along with Shikamaru had been signed to the Niji Shotai, the 20th platoon of Konoha's Border Patrol Guard, a department dedicated to tracking and reporting foreign influence, and in some cases domestic influence, throughout Hai no Kuni. Their assigned missions mostly consisted out of border patrol, scouting, and long-duration missions at stations, checking up on traps set by the other platoons and investigating matters of interest, which could range from fluctuations in crime to highway robbery. Naruto learned the lower the number of your platoon, the more seasoned your colleagues were, and the tougher your missions would be. Each platoon had a minimum of 40 members and was divided in teams of 5s, often named after the team leader for convenience. Rei had saved them a seat next to her in the briefing room. "I see you have finally taken the time to join us, Uzumaki. I was late once, Rei. When are you guys gonna let that go?" Naruto took a seat next to Rei, a rather stoic medical kunoichi on his team whose demeanor was colder than anyone else he knew. "I'm sorry I cost us that one lousy, stinking mission too." "Pipe down, Uzumaki," Tsurugaku ordered from the far left seat on their row. "The PL is here." Naruto looked at Shikamaru with an irritable expression. The shadow user merely shrugged and slumped in his chair as their platoon leader took his position behind the lectern and the briefing started. "All right, boys and girls, who's missing?" Their platoon leader Kiza Enro took a head count before he continued. "Today's rotation schedule. Teams 308 to 312, you guys got some downtime for the next week." "Yes, I said a full week, and yes, there's a catch. You guys will have to run some errands for the Armory Administration due to lack of manpower." Almost immediately several shinobi gave shouts of indignation, but their burly platoon leader wasn't having any of it. "Pipe down," Enro ordered loudly. "TLs of teams 308 to 312, I have your mandates here, come and collect them after briefing." "Yes, sir." Tsurugaku was the only team leader that actually replied. "Now then," Enro continued, "there have been several reports of mutiny in the borderlands roughly 50 miles south of Konoha's Armory Administration building. A while later Team 312 stood together in the Armory Administration's warehouse facilities below ground level. Lack of manpower was a bit of an understatement as the facility was practically abandoned. Tsurugaku walked past each of them and handed out clipboards filled with orders on equipment and materials that needed to be delivered and collected. "All right, we'll get the job done much quicker if we just delegate the workload," Tsurugaku told them as he handed each of them a clipboard with information on them. "Rei, since it's your expertise, you'll be handling the medical supplies." "Understood." With that, Rei took off into another direction. "Hayes, you and I will be handling these prototype demolition kits. From what they're telling me, only NBU operatives can get their hands on these babies, so we'll take care of that." Naruto frowned, looking down on the orders on his clipboard that were identical to Shikamaru's. "Why do we have to deliver all this boring stuff while you get the cool prototypes?" Naruto gestured to the hundreds of stacked boxes in the warehouse facility with his clipboard to illustrate his point. "These orders need to go all over the place. It'll take us forever just to find them." "Seniority, Uzumaki," Tsurugaku responded coolly. "Seniority, when he's right, he's right," Hayes added with a slap to Naruto's shoulder as the oldest members of Team 312 took off. "Great," Naruto swore under his breath. "Let's get this over with. I want to get in some training today." Naruto set the clipboard down on one box and then stacked the box on another two. "Come on, Shikamaru stared at him with a dry expression. "Naruto, Do you ever use your clones for anything other rushing your opponents? Right. Naruto's sweat dropped, feeling incredibly stupid for not having thought of that himself. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Pillars of smoke burst out around them as 12 Naruto clones appeared and took off with their own clipboards, exploring the giant warehouse facility. Incredible! That's the Kage Bunshin Jutsu, isn't it? Naruto turned to the source of the voice and found a young girl their age standing by corner. My name is Shiho, she introduced herself as she approached them with an outstretched hand and a clipboard in another, held over a small square parcel. I work downstairs. Shiho was a tall and slender girl their age with light blonde hair and pale skin. She wore a lab coat over her regular clothes and a pair of glasses. Downstairs? Shikamaru repeated. Shiho immediately clapped her hands over her mouth and accidentally poked herself in the eye with her clipboard, though the damage was decreased due to her wearing glasses. Ouch! I'm not supposed to tell anyone of the secret floor below this one, so please keep it quiet. She's an oddball, isn't she? Naruto whispered to Shikamaru rather audibly, pointlessly using the clipboard to hide what he was doing. Don't be rude, Naruto, Shikamaru chided. Rest assured your secret is safe with us. Shikamaru nodded to Shiho. May I know your names? Shiho inquired with a soft tone, indicating how shy and socially awkward she was. Uzumaki Naruto, Naruto replied with his usual flamboyant bravado. Nara Shikamaru, you two are both Chunin? Shiho asked, to which the pair nodded. Oh wow. That's rather unusual. You two look like you could be my age. How old are you? 13. I'm turning 14 in 5 months. Instantly Shikamaru's eyes narrowed as he snapped out of his perpetually lazy demeanor. You're younger than both of us, yet you're working for the Armory Administration in a secret level below this one? You must be quite the kunoichi. I assume you're a Chunin too? I am indeed, Shiho confirmed. I graduated the academy over 4 years ago though. Whoa, you must be some super genius like Shikamaru, huh? Naruto was genuinely impressed. He has an IQ of over 200 or something like that, Naruto hurriedly elaborated, not even interested in the slightest with Shikamaru's genius. I bet you're a lot smarter than this lazy ass, huh? Well, I have IQ of 213, Shiho blushed a brilliant shade of red at the compliment. 3. What about you, Shika? Naruto prodded his companion. Mine is 208, Shikamaru said the digits with an unusual serious expression. Granted, there weren't many out there with the intellect that could rival his own genius, and to meet a shy, withdrawn girl like Shiho who not only rivaled him but whose IQ surpassed his must have been somewhat surprising, if not shocking. Naruto burst out laughing, punching Shikamaru in the arm. Ha! I knew you weren't smartest kid our age, suck it Shika. There go your bragging rights. Shiho stifled a laugh with some difficulty. Well, I'm sure. Wait, did you just say you were of the Nara clan? Shikamaru nodded and Shiho instantly made a swoon-like noise. You must be related Nara Shikaku. A bit of a late reaction, Naruto noted with a sweat drop. He's my father. I knew it. You look just like him. Shiho exclaimed. I met your father once. It was a few months ago. He mentioned he had a son my age graduating soon. That was you. Naruto couldn't quite grasp why this exciting news, and by the looks of it neither could Shikamaru. What was Shika's dad doing down here, Shiho-chan? Shiho-chan, oh my, how familiar. Shiho said it more to herself to anyone else, hence it went unnoticed by Naruto. I'm afraid I can't tell you, Uzumaki-san. Everything that goes down below is an A-rank secret, and I'll be in enough of trouble if anyone finds out of what I've already let slip. Come on! Naruto goaded her with an infectious grin. We're comrades, aren't we? You can trust us. This is Shikuru's son, remember? Shikaku, Shikamaru corrected him with visible annoyance. Right, it's just that I prefer Shikuru. Shikaku reminds me of Shikaka, and he's one mean son of a. I get it. Right, Naruto said again. Shiho giggled. From the sound of it, and her expression, it wasn't something she did often. You two are quite the pair. I suppose I can show you what's below. I hope Giken-sensei won't mind. We don't get much company. Naruto looked to Shikamaru and nodded. They followed Shiho as she led the way down past the stairs, cases, and elevators to an secluded area of the warehouse. Shiho looked around. Finding no one close, she turned back to the wall and formed a ram hand seal to channel her chakra before she placed her palm against the concrete. Immediately hairline cracks shone a vibrant blue, and the wall gave away as Shiho passed through it, followed shortly by the pair of Chunin behind her, as they shared brief looks of suspicion. Minutes later they stopped before huge double doors wrought from thick gray steel. It was somewhat grimy and looked as if it hadn't been attended to a while. Next to it was a computer console where one would have to input the password to gain entry. Please don't wander around inside, It can be very dangerous. Shiho turned around as she said. The seriousness they tried to convey was somewhat stinted by the odd pair of glasses she wore. Do you understand? I'm not supposed to be showing around anyone who isn't authorized. Naruto and Shikamaru exchanged glances again. Sure. Shiho turned back to the gray blast doors and the computer console. Would you look away, please? A quick glance over her shoulder put her concerns to rest as Naruto and Shikamaru covered their eyes. One can never be too certain with shinobi, no offense, none taken. Naruto thumbed towards Shikamaru. What he said? A series of beeping tones sounded as Shiho punched in the code on the console, followed by the audible groaning of metal as the doors parted and blinding light broke through the cracks in the dark cavern-like part of Armory Administration Building. Welcome to Floor Zero, the real Floor Zero, Shiho smiled at her new companions. Follow me. And follow they did, as Shiho walked through the door in a large spacious area filled with many desks and high-tech equipment scattered around on benches and pinned against walls. Only 2 of us work down here, Shiho explained. When I was 8, I noticed my sensei snuck a hidden IQ test in my homework. You've had this special piece of homework too, right? Shikamaru nodded. Everyone did, actually. I was the only one to figure out it was an IQ test though. So was I, Shiho beamed. I noticed the test was odd and somewhat illogical, so I went to my sensei, and she revealed to me I was the only one that noticed it was an IQ test. They diagnosed mine to be 213 and offered me the chance to graduate early. Why'd you take it? Didn't you miss your friends at all? Naruto asked. Shiho gave an awkward shrug. I didn't have any friends. Nor was I talented in any form of shinobi combat. The only reason I enrolled was because my parents wanted me to, so I took it and became a scientist for Konoha. I was never much of a fighter to begin with. What is it you do down here? Naruto stopped by a workbench to pick up what seemed to be an ordinary singular piece of makibishi. You guys handle the equip. Don't touch that. Shiho slapped away his hand and sighed, checking up on the lone piece of makibishi with a careful eye. These aren't regular caltrops, they're explosives. They serve as landmines on the battlefield, rather than just hinder the enemy. Sounds great. Naruto's eye wandered to a lone wakizashi. What does that do? It carries a launching mechanism for a new type of ninja wire. Can we please keep moving? Gikken-sensei will get really upset if he catches us messing with his work, Shiho warned. Come, I'll show you where I work. I don't have as much expertise as Gikken-sensei, so I'm usually left to test out the smaller stuff like this. Shiho held up the small parcel she'd been carrying. So this Gikken-sensei has created all of this? Naruto let out a lengthy whistle. That's impressive. Oh, no, we don't invent all of these. We just test them and write up reports which determine whether they'll be used in combat or not. Shiho stopped by the far end of the spacious room and stooped by her desk. This is where I work. Today I'll be writing up a report on this device. Shiho placed the parcel on her desk and pulled up her chair. Naruto eyed the parcel as Shiho unwrapped it carefully. What's this do? It's a chakra sensor, Shiho replied. With a simple point and click, this little thing will gauge the chakra emitted from any person, weapon, or even seal. They can be quite useful when looking for booby traps out in the battlefield. How do you know it works? You ask a lot of questions, Uzumaki-san. Sorry. No, don't apologize, Shiho smiled again. I actually quite enjoy the attention. It's nice. The oddball genius held up the small metallic device in front of Naruto and showed him the display screen. All these small stripes work like a graph. The lower the chakra emitted, the more this arrow, she tapped the screen for emphasis, will lean on the left. For example, do you have an exploding tag on you? Yeah, sure. Naruto dove into his pouch attached to the small of his back by a utility belt and withdrew a single exploding tag. Here. Shiho placed the tag on an unusual-looking slab of material on her desk and then pointed the chakra sensor device's antenna to the tag. Now we press this button and there we have it. She held up the display again for the two to see. Pretty impressive, huh? It is, Shikamaru nodded. You said it could gauge person's chakra too, right? The shadow user raised an eyebrow at his blonde-haired teammate, which went unnoticed. Could you please? Of course. Shiho was eager to please and raised the device to Shikamaru. Let's see what you got. Actually, I meant, it appears your chakra reservoir is average, Shiho declared. Shikamaru sighed. Thank you. Now let's try you, Uzumaki-san, Shiho said with an exciting tone. You seem energetic. I'm sure you'll do great. Naruto held up his hand and shook his head. No, I'd rather not. Too late now, Naruto. Shikamaru's eyes narrowed at the device in Shiho's hand. Incredible! Shiho exclaimed. At first glance it jumped to extremely high levels and it's not stopping. The device screeched, and its lights began to blink erratically for a moment before it failed altogether, and the device imploded, prompting Shiho to drop it on her desk. Unbelievable! Naruto rubbed the back of his head nervously, the damage already done. Well, you knew I could do the Kage Bunshin, so why did you even bother checking? I'm too curious for my own good. Shiho appeared as if was about to burst in tears. Giken-sensei is going to be so upset. Who's going to be upset? A new voice demanded. The voice belonged to an elderly man with gray beard, unhealthily looking gray skin with oversized goggles, wearing a white lab coat over his brown tunic. Shiho, who are these two? Giken-sensei, what are you doing, Shiho? Giken demanded as he approached them in hobbling fashion, raising his cane to the pair of Chunin. Chunin, as Tokubetsu Jonin I outrank you. State your names and registration codes. Uzumaki Naruto, registration code 012607. Nara Shikamaru, registration code 012611. 4. Giken hobbled closer and poked Naruto in the chest with a suspicious glance at Shikamaru. You are related to Nara Shikaku, his son if I'm not mistaken. Shikamaru nodded to this. I requested to pull you out of academy around the same time as Shiho, but your father refused. How short-sighted of him. You would have done some good down here. Don't get me wrong, your father is a brilliant man and an excellent shogi player, but he made a mistake refusing to let you come down here. Giken was not interested in hearing a response and turned his eye to Naruto. And you, Uzumaki Naruto the... Giken glanced at both Shiho and Shikamaru for a moment, infamous prankster of Konoha. I've heard of many of your exploits. What you did with the Hokage monument. Priceless. That old fart Hiruzen couldn't stop laughing about it the last time he was here. Thank you. Once again his reply went unheard. Shiho, what are these two doing down here? You know this place is a secret. Again the scientist gave no time for response. You two best not tell anyone or we'll all be in big trouble. Now get out. Let's go, Naruto. Right. As the pair walked away to leave, Shiho turned to Giken and said in a rather hurried excitement. Giken-sensei, Uzumaki-san broke the new chakra sensor. His chakra levels must be enormous. Please allow me to run some tests so I can take notes. You two stop. Giken pulled his beard many times as he grumbled. Uzumaki, did you truly break this prototype device? Giken gestured to the broken device with his cane, to which Naruto nodded. Right then, you're not going anywhere, Naruto groaned audibly. You've got to be kidding me. Oh, sometime later. Are we done yet? No, now be silent, boy. Shikamaru watched with idle amusement as Naruto sat down at table, shirtless and with many wires attached to his torso and temples, whilst Giken ran tests with several other devices. Don't complain, Naruto. It's least we can do for coming down here. We? Naruto repeated. You're just standing there, and OUCH. Put down that cane, old man. I have no trouble with beating on the elderly. Ouch. Stop it. Be silent, boy. Giken struck the blonde on his head with his cane again. We're almost done. Now be silent, or I'll make Shiho give you a physical. Giken-sensei. Shiho's face turned completely red. It wasn't a far stretch from the constant blush she had with a shirtless Naruto around. In a vain attempt to stop ogling the blonde, the young genius examined Naruto's unusual gear. This flak jacket is very unusual, Uzumaki-san. It's heavier and more durable than the one I have at home, plus it has these shoulder guards you don't see on the other models. That flak is from before your time, Shiho, Giken told her, keeping his eyes fixated on the devices before him. That's a first-generation flak. I have one, as would most shinobi my age. They were preceded by the armor shinobi such as the Shodame and Nidame used to wear in combat. 5. Oh. Where did you get such an incredible memento, Uzumaki-san? The old man gave it to me as a present. Naruto pointed towards the tanto attached to flak jacket. The tanto is from the same era, I think. They both belong to Gigi. Ouch. Stop hitting me with that cane, then stop moving, you insolent child. Giken struck Naruto again just as Shiho pulled the tanto out of its sheath. Incredible. This tanto is undoubtedly very old, but you can see it's been kept in pristine conditioning. Shiho marveled over the ninja dagger, running a hand over its smooth metal. The guard has something inscribed on it. It does? Naruto raised an eyebrow, only to be struck again. I didn't move. I apologize. Giken was completely unrepentant. This is just so much fun, he admitted with a croaky laugh. Naruto looked as he was about to murder the old man. What does it say? Shikamaru asked. It says the will of fire shall illuminate the village, Giken finished. It's a saying the Shodai used to say a lot. Hiruzen was always a sucker for that one. How do you know it's Gigi's? Naruto asked, and force once Giken did not strike him for moving. We talk, Giken replied vaguely. Now then, looks like we're done here. No sooner had he said it, had Naruto taken off the patches, rushed past Shiho to grab his gear and rushed past Shikamaru to drag him out of the room. We'll come by to visit later, Shiho-chan. Why that insolent little dash? Giken-sensei. Oh, I'm telling you that old man is batshit crazy, Shika. He must have hit me at least 50 times. Naruto said as they walked down the street, still fiddling with his jackets and pouches. Hey, wait a minute. Naruto reached into his pouch having felt an odd weight in it, and held up a package of explosive makibishi. Shiho-chan, you're awesome. She snuck those in while Giken was running tests on you, Shikamaru said. Well, thanks for telling me. What if I slipped and fell, huh? It'd be splattered all of the damn place. Shikamaru shrugged, unrepentant. I hate you. They don't work like that. You need to actually hold them before you scatter them, so you can key your chakra to them. Only a significant force like a footstep will trigger them to go off, that or if you just detonate them by channeling your chakra. They work just like exploding tags that way. And when did she tell you all this? While Giken-san was beating you up. You tell anyone that happened and I'll kill you. Who's going to want me as Hokage if they found out an old man beat the shit out of me for an hour straight? Nobody, that's who. You seem to care a lot about what people think of you. Old habits die hard, Naruto grumbled under his breath. What? Naruto got an agitated look in his face. Of course I do. I'm going to be the Hokage someday, aren't I? The people actually need to respect me if I'm going to realize my dream, genius. Right. Screw you. I'm going to train. With that, Naruto took off to the nearest training ground. Shikamaru simply shrugged and went his own way. Oh. A few hours later Naruto headed back home from the training ground after spending a good few hours on getting down some ninjutsu. With the help of the Kage Bunshin he had gotten down a few simple fire jutsu after realizing he had more or less neglected that element. Though covered in sweat and dirt with a great sense of fatigue, Naruto felt good about himself. He reckoned he could probably destroy the Naruto from a few weeks ago within seconds. He had certainly branched out his ninjutsu like the old man had advised him and now knew at least 5 jutsu of each element. The Shuriken Kage Bunshin and its kunai variation as well as one of his new favorite techniques, the exploding shadow clone. His genjutsu was still rather limited but he would brush up on that in due time. On his way home Naruto stopped by the grocery store. Minutes later he walked out of the small establishment though he didn't get far before a familiar voice called to him. Naruto! Naruto turned around and saw Sakura waving from a distance. Sakura-chan. It only now just hit him how long he hadn't seen his old teammate. It had been a month since he last saw her, Sasuke and Kakashi. What have you been up to? We just got back from a mission to a village not far from here. Just a simple escort mission, nothing too difficult. Sakura prodded the blonde with her elbow as they began walking further down the road. What about you? You're a hotshot chunin now, aren't you? It must be very excited leading your own team. I'm still a rookie, so I won't be leading my own team for a while, Sakura-chan, Naruto told her. As for my team, well, I'm stuck with Shikamaru, a girl as cold as ice, a perverted swordsman, and a team leader with a knack for explosions and a giant stick up his ass. Trouble in paradise? Sakura cheekily quipped. What makes you think being a chunin is paradise in the first place? Naruto asked with a shake of his head. It's mostly scout missions and running errands for rookies like me. To be perfectly honest, I'm really starting to miss you guys, even Sasuke. Sakura smiled kindly as they both felt a wave of nostalgia. So, this team leader of yours doesn't like you, does he? It borderlines on hatred, Naruto replied. Oh, it can't be that bad, Sakura firmly shook her head decisively. You always seem to bring the best out of people, Naruto, so give it some time and he'll come around. They all will. Naruto was taken aback by that for a moment. Sakura was never this nice to him before. Maybe it was the nostalgia in the air. Maybe she'd done some growing up of her own in the last few weeks, or maybe it was that Naruto had finally earned her respect after saving her from Gaara. Well, thanks, Sakura-chan. That means a lot to me coming from you. Don't mention it, Naruto. They fell silent for the next few minutes as they walked side by side down the road. It wasn't until Sakura's route home took her right his straight on when they stopped. See ya, Sakura-chan. It's been nice catching up. Yeah, you too. Naruto held up his hand in greeting, waving over his shoulder as he continued his path to the apartment. Naruto, the blonde turned around with a quizzical expression. What is it, Sakura-chan? I never got the chance to thank you properly for saving me. Judging by her expression, Naruto could tell how this had been eating at her for a while now. So, I wanted to say thank you. Don't mention it, Sakura-chan. You would have done the same for me. Naruto smiled at her reassuringly. It wasn't until Sakura was left to her own devices, she sighed with a sense of frustration. That's the thing, Naruto. I don't think I would have. I'm just so weak. Oh, the week of downtime went by quicker than Naruto had expected or appreciated. For the most part, their missions could be done within a few minutes with the right amount of teamwork, but with Naruto and Shikamaru being rookies and Tsurugaku not particularly liking either of them, they were left to the majority of the work whilst the other three took it easy. Luckily for Naruto though, he usually managed to finish sooner than they did with his Kage Bunshin technique and thus would be off to the training grounds early whilst his army of Kage Bunshin took care of his and Shikamaru's workload. On their last day of the downtime, Tsurugaku had taken it to himself to devise a training course with his sabotage and trap-setting expertise. Currently, they were going a border patrol simulated mission and were shifting through formations as contraptions created by Tsurugaku set off and launched projectiles at them. Formation D4, keep moving! Tsurugaku shouted, his hands in the ram hand seal. A strange contraption that oddly resembled a giant catapult sling hybrid launched a volley of shuriken towards Naruto, Shikamaru, Heize and Rei. Naruto shifted forward with two kunai held in reverse grip and deflected the projectiles coming his and Rei's direction, who as their medic had to be protected at all times. Tsurugaku ran next to the team on ground level as they continued to hop from branch to branch. Good. Now move to formation A5. In the distance, Tsurugaku had strategically placed straw dolls with crudely carved IWA headbands as though they were going to ambush them. Naruto threw a volley of kunai and struck 3 down whilst he continued to defend Rei, being charged with her guard. It was extremely boring compared to Heize's role of main offense, as he was considered the strongest on their team by their TL. Heize did an unnecessary front flip as he threw 2 handfuls of shuriken. Naruto, despite himself, had to admit that was kind of cool. He's an cocky bastard, but he's got skill, Naruto thought as the senior Chunin deflected an entire volley of kunai by himself with but one of his dual kodachi. Heize, deflate your ego. Allow Nara and Uzumaki to help you deflect projectiles. You're going to miss 1 or 2 at some point, and that can result in death or injury. You know that is unacceptable. For all his faults, Tsurugaku knew what he was talking about. They shared a bond of mutual dislike. Naruto knew their TL was at least competent, even if he regarded Naruto as nothing but a talentless and insubordinate braggart. I'll be fine, Heize shouted back. It was just as he said it when another volley came their way, quicker than before, and Heize failed to act on time. However, Naruto's instincts kicked in and within seconds, he grabbed onto Rei's blow and flung her towards Shikamaru, who barely caught her, thrust out his palms in front of him with chakra racing down his arms. Futon! Repusho! The wind blasted from his hands and launched Naruto backwards with incredible force, completely blasting the lethal projectiles off course. Naruto spun violently through the air, and grunted as he broke through a thick branch, but he recovered and flipped whilst midair and planted his feet firmly against a tree. Luckily the thick body armor of his flak jacket took the brunt of the damage. Shikamaru's eyes narrowed only momentarily. He didn't need his IQ of over 200 to realize Naruto had changed a lot in the way he carried himself and acted, but he hadn't anticipated witnessing a new jutsu so soon, considering it had barely been a month since they got promoted. Regardless, the shadow user smiled lazily at the blonde and gave him thumbs up. Nice one, Naruto! Rei was his side instantly and reached for field kit. Naruto held up his hand, noting with some curiosity Rei had called him by his first name for the first time. I'm fine. Don't worry about it. You're bleeding. Rei pulled his hand closer to examine the piece of wood lodged into his forearm. We need to treat this. A few inches down, and it would have spliced an artery. Naruto grimaced. The wound was about to close up seamlessly before her eyes any second now. If only he had a means of distracting her. Uzumaki! How did you do that? For once, Naruto was glad Tsurugaku was such an ass. What are you talking about? Your file didn't say anything about you being able to perform such techniques. Explain yourself? Tsurugaku demanded loudly, giving Naruto an opportunity to withdraw his hand from Rei's absent-minded grip. Rei glared at the team leader. Tsurugaku Taicho, what does it matter? He saved us both doing it and got injured. There's a lot I can do that isn't in that file you got on me, Tsurugaku-senpai. Naruto took great pleasure in the look of outrage in Tsurugaku's face. Maybe if you took the time to properly assess me instead of dismissing me as a no-good troublemaker from day one, you would know what I'm capable of. Did you know about this? Tsurugaku barked at Shikamaru. The shadow user calmly shook his head. This is the first time I've seen him perform any elemental ninjutsu. He usually sticks to taijutsu and Rei, tend to Uzumaki's wound and patch him up. I want to see what else he's capable of. Surugaku Taicho. Surugaku matched her glare with his own. Rei, I will not tolerate any insubordination on my team. You have your orders. It's a work in progress, Naruto lied. He sure as hell was not going to have a show and tell and show his teammates all of his jutsu. The Kage Bunshin training method, as absolute torturous the mental fatigue was an incredible way of learning new jutsu. In the few hours Naruto could scrape together to train between missions, he had learned quite a few, with well over 3,000 hours of work divided amongst ninjutsu, fuinjutsu and even a little on genjutsu. Naruto was also starting to get the hang of chakra control applications, such as straightening metal, and his chakra control overall have improved because of it. This train of thought got him thinking, I should try a hand at summoning Gamabunta in one go. It usually takes me a few tries, but I'm sure I'll get the hang of it. I'm just glad you were on top of your game there, Uzumaki. Hayes scratched his cheek. I'm always on top of my game, Naruto shot back. Surugaku opened his mouth to speak again, but Shikamaru got their attention. Guys, the shadow user spoke, idly staring to the sky. I think we're going to have to cut training short. It looks like we've been called for a mission. Naruto looked up into the sky and found a messenger hawk circling above them, cawing loudly as it waited for one of them to stretch out their arm. The bird perched on Surugaku's wrist moments later and held out its leg to the Chunin. Surugaku took the mission scroll of the bird and unfurled it as the hawk took off. A few moments of silence went by as Surugaku read the scroll, the rest eyeing him intently and waiting for him to fill them in. When Surugaku spoke, his voice was audibly shaking with excitement. It seems we have been called for a special mission ordered to us directly by our platoon leader, Surugaku told them. The report we sent in has set off some flags, and we've been ordered to set out for Tanzakugai immediately. What Tanzakugai? Hayes repeated. Yes, the police force of Tanzakugai may have been fudging the paperwork in regards to criminality. The 3 Kurodagumi corpses we found turned out to be the bosses of the Kurodagumi, yet there was not a single report about their disappearances or deaths. We've been tasked to investigate the matter, Saragaki smirked. This is a B-ranked mission. Naruto was relieved it wouldn't be straight back to scouting missions. Surugaku rolled up the scroll with a serious expression, frowning slightly. The sun is already going down, so we'll have to move quickly. We will meet at the northern gate in 30 minutes, pack for at least a week. Dismissed. Surugaku, Hayes and Rei promptly disappeared with Shunshin's, leaving Naruto and Shikamaru in the training ground. We really need to learn that jutsu. Anyway, I'll see you at the gate, Shika. What about your arm? Naruto waved off his concerns with a shrug. It's fine, don't worry about it, the shadow user shrugged. Suit yourself? I'll see you there. Naruto gave no response and immediately took off into his own direction. Chapter 3. Proving Your Worth. Team 312 wasted no time in assembling at the northern gate and embarking on their journey to the city of Tanzakugai. Naruto had never been there before. All he ever knew was Konoha, and until recently Nami no Kuni. Scout rotation didn't leave much time for sightseeing either. It was pretty much scout point A to point B and keep an eye out for anything or anyone suspicious. Occasionally they had a few parcels to deliver here and there, but that was always on a tight schedule. It didn't leave Naruto with a lot of time to explore the beautiful countryside of Hai no Kuni, and this was no different. Just a few hours ago a messenger hawk delivered their mission assignment. They were tasked with investigating the Tanzakugai criminal underworld, and by implication, the police force as well. Naruto had never been on an investigation mission. To him it actually sounded pretty strange for a shinobi to be tasked with a task such as this. But then again it also made sense. Shinobi were trained in subtlety and information gathering. If anything, they were perfect for investigations like these. Alright, we're here, Surugaku announced, landing in a crouch and holding up his fist to signal this team to stop. Let's break for camp, the sun is about to set. Hayes and I will go scout the area while you 3 set up our campsite. Nakamura, you're in charge. We'll be back in an hour. Rei nodded, understood, Surugaku Taicho. The kunoichi turned to her fellow rookies. You 2 set up camp and gather firewood, while I raise a genjutsu layer to hide our presence. Once we get a fire going, we can eat. I've packed enough pre-made meals for all of us, so feel free to ask. I'm good. Naruto dropped his backpack under a tree and reached for one of the shovels Rei passed them. Alright, don't slack off, Shikamaru. Don't even think of making me do all the work. Why not? Naruto shot him an annoyed look, exasperated with the genius' perpetual slothfulness. Why would I do all the work? The shadow user shrugged. Because you can use your clones to do your work for you, he offered in a rhetoric manner. Right, I knew that. Naruto tucked the shovel under his elbow and made an unusual hand seal. Ray raised an eyebrow at Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Poof! Ray did a double take as 6 identical Naruto clones appeared with pillars of smoke and went to work, chastising the original for being a lazy bastard. Shikamaru couldn't help but laugh as Naruto picked a fight with one of his clones who made the offhanded comment, "How did you that? Those are solid clones." Ray looked at Naruto, and then Shikamaru with a demanding expression. Naruto looked at Shikamaru. What? Don't look at me. The fact you're able to create Kage Bunshin is still an impressive feat, Naruto. Shikamaru shrugged, plopped down on the ground and got comfy. Those are Kage Bunshin? Ray was wide-eyed as though she couldn't believe what she was hearing. That's a B-rank genjutsu. How in the hell are you able to create so many? Shikamaru smiled at that, earning him a scowl from Ray. Sorry, Nakamura-san, but 6 Kage Bunshin aren't a lot, not by Naruto's standards. What do you mean? Naruto rubbed a finger under his nose in a childish show of conceitedness. Let's just say this is only a fraction of what I can do. Ray shook her head, refusing to believe it. No way. It was odd to see her lose her composure, even after knowing her only for a few weeks. Naruto saw Ray as the cool type who was never fazed by what anyone thought or did, evidently in her indifference towards Hei's frequent tales of one-night stands. A fraction of are you out of your mind? Definitely, Shikamaru shrugged with indifference. But he's not lying. For a moment Rei's expression went blank, then a frown came to her face and she glared at Naruto. Just do as you're told, Uzumaki. The kunoichi promptly turned around and walked off, leaving a stunned Naruto look at Shikamaru with confusion. Okay, what did I say? Shikamaru shrugged uncaringly and yawned. I'm not an expert on women, Naruto. The shadow user washed his hands of the matter and stretched out on his sleeping bags, looking up into the sky. Take it easy, girls aren't meant for us to understand anyway. She'll come around on her own terms. Probably. You're a strange one, Shikamaru. Naruto rolled out his own sleeping bag and lied down as his clones gave him dirty looks and some even made derogative comments. I need to figure out how to control these idiots. We heard that, 6 different voices said in his mind, prompting Naruto to yelp and jump up. Okay, if you guys want to take this outside, bring it. Naruto's eye twitched as one of his clones gave him the finger and stuck out its tongue. We are outside, you moron. Why does he get to be the original? So not fair. Shikamaru began chuckled as the clones set off into 6 separate directions to collect firewood. Naruto shook his head, his hand in the serpent hand seal for a moment before he gripped the earth beneath his feet, gripping onto it as he created a dug-in area large enough for them to set up camp. Satisfied with his handiwork, Naruto got off his knee and clapped the dirt of his hands. That ought to do it. Oh, the next day in the early morning, Naruto crawled out of his sleeping bag, nose twitching to the delightful aroma of breakfast that stirred him out of slumber. He poured some water in his hands from his canteen and washed his face, getting the dirt out of his eyes, and yawned. Good, you're awake. Naruto blinked a few times to get the drowsiness out of his system. He hadn't even noticed Rei as she sat down by a fire and was preparing their breakfast. Naruto shuddered. The last time he had breakfast in a forest was during the second stage of the Chunin exams, and that had certainly not gone well. Barely, Naruto yawned. Naruto reached into his backpack, sat next to his sleeping bag, and retrieved his flak jacket. He was somewhat cold in the chill morning breeze. Your flak jacket is different from ours. Why is that? Rei asked curiously as she offered him a can of nutritious supplements. We don't have shoulder pads like you do, and yours seems heavier. Why is that? She asked again. Naruto spooned a mouthful, sat down opposite her. It's a gift from the old man. Old man? Naruto chuckled. Not many people understood who he was referring to when he said that. Hokage-sama. He said it as though the title was humorous rather than belonging to one of the greatest shinobi to have ever lived. He gave me his tanto too. Naruto swiftly reached for the small of his back and unsheathed the dagger, and held it out for Rei to examine. Hokage-sama gave this to you? Rei sounded both envious and disbelieving at the same time, though Naruto couldn't quite blame her. Not many would have believed him. This tanto is different from ours. It's got a kuvia edge and it looks like it's been through a lot of battles like your flak. That's 'cause they were the old man's when he was a chunin, like a century ago. The joke went unnoticed as Rei's eyes widened and her grip on the dagger's handle tightened. If you don't believe me, it's fine. No, I believe you, Uzumaki. Naruto, just call me Naruto. I'm not big on formality. Rei gave him a comical deadpan stare as she handed him back the tanto. That much was obvious from day one. Naruto chuckled. I make up for it with charm. No, you don't. Naruto hung his head, feigning to be crestfallen and getting a laugh out of Rei, in which he joined her. I want to apologize for being so cold to you lately. Rei seemed somewhat uncomfortable with the apology. I was a little jealous. I suppose I'm just easily intimidated by geniuses like you. Naruto burst out laughing and cupped his mouth with both hands to keep it down. Rei glared at him, but Naruto found it hard to stop laughing and only stopped when she punched him in a painful spot on his arm. Ouch! Naruto rubbed his arm. What's so funny? Naruto frowned. That had hurt. It's funny you think I'm a genius. Rei's glare intensified and she bristled. You're able to use at least one strong futon jutsu and a B-ranked kenjutsu with ease, both of which you treat as though they're the mere tip of the iceberg. Then there's the fact you somehow beat Hyuga Niji, and you claim to have beaten Sasuke's opponent, Sabaka no Gaara, as well as Momochi Zabuza. Coming around to that? Rei gave an icy glare and Naruto gave a shrug in return. He had stopped caring whether or not they believed him weeks ago, figuring they would come to know the truth in due time. Unsurprisingly, Rei was first. For the record, I did do those things except for Zabuza. He was toying with me and Sasuke the whole time. That guy was on a completely different level. Luckily we had Kakashi-sensei with us, or we would have been dead long before we got to the Chunin exams. Naruto felt a wave of nostalgia. He sure did miss his old team. And to be completely honest, I only managed to beat Zabuza's apprentice because Sasuke saved my life for the 100th time, the son of a bitch. Naruto inhaled the remains of his food in mere seconds, much to the visible disgust of Rei, and got up, dusting off his trousers. How does that not make you a genius if you've already accomplished so much? Naruto looked at Rei with a serious expression, a stark contrast to his usual demeanor. I accomplished those things because I work my ass off. It doesn't come easy to me, Rei-chan. It never has. All those things I accomplished because I train all day, every day. Rei-chan? She repeated. Naruto chuckled. I'm not even particularly smart, I just make up for it with guts and instincts. I guess when it comes down to it, that's all you really need. Guts and instincts. You can have all the talent in the world, but that means nothing if you don't have the guts and instincts to use it. A few choice words Naruto had heard once came to mind, and he grinned at her. Maybe if I ever could dream of applying that label to me. I'm a fighting genius. Rei was stunned by the declaration, though she was saved from giving an answer as Hayes sat up mechanically to the scent of food. What's for grub? A while later they stood by the outskirts of the city. Tsurugaku gathered them around and gave one of his patented coughs to draw their attention. Okay, we're about to enter the city. We'll split up here for the time being, Tsurugaku decided. I'm going to the police force headquarters to give them notice of our mission assignment. Hayes and Nakamura, you two keep an eye at the market district. Nara and Uzumaki, I'm placing you by the casinos. Neither of you seem to be the gambling type, so I expect you to behave and stay away from the slot machines. Any questions? Rei seemed utterly displeased with her assigned partner but made no comment. Naruto, on the other hand, didn't really care. He got along with Hayes just fine, though he wasn't about to volunteer to take him off her hands. Remember to stay vigilant and report your location every 15 minutes. Tsurugaku tapped the headset attached to his neck. Don't draw attention, just mingle in the crowds. If you see any suspicious behavior, radio in before you do anything. Understood, they replied simultaneously. Oh, Tanzakugai. Naruto and Shikamaru made their way through the crowds in the city, brushing past civilians as they patrolled the city of Tanzakugai. The city was unlike anything Naruto had imagined. It was very different from Konoha. There were lights, cables, and neon signs everywhere, which would illuminate the city during the night. The roads were somewhat smaller, but much more crowded with people of all kinds. The occasional beast of burden pulled by with wares to be sold by its master. There were more beggars on the street than he had encountered in Wave Country, some of whom were smoking from pipes that gave off disgusting fumes. Opium, Shikamaru said with a curl of his nose. And right on the streets, what exactly is the police force doing? Naruto was somewhat surprised. Not even the occasional policeman they saw on the street seemed bothered by it. In fact, Naruto could have sworn the few pipes he had seen, a few policemen smoked pipes that probably did not contain tobacco. Naruto frowned as they stopped by a stall. He paid the vendor a handful of golden Rio coins and bought a few dango sticks settled in a row on a disposal paper plate, one of which he passed on one to Shikamaru. Any idea what to look for? Aside from the opium addicts and the policemen that ignore them? Troublesome. Shikamaru obviously wasn't helping and he shrugged. Tsurugaku said to keep an eye out for anyone suspicious. Naruto looked around as they walked. Anyone suspicious? That pretty much fits the description for most of the people here. They continued to explore the city for a while, mostly walking back and forth by the casinos and calling in their position and status over the radio every 15 minutes. It was almost an hour later when a loud commotion nearby alerted them. "Look where the fuck you're going." Naruto looked at Shikamaru and nodded, setting off to see what was going on. Upon arriving, Naruto saw a tall man in an expensive-looking suit and stained but otherwise stylish trench coat hoisting another man foot above ground. A child holding an empty ice cream cone was standing close by, crying her eyes out as her father was getting beaten up, surrounded by another few thugs and scared civilians. The thug kicked the man, leveling him off the ground and sending him crashing into a vendor's cart. "Look what you did to my suit! This thing cost me 5,000 ryo. How are you going to pay for it, H?" The ringleader's thugs rushed over to the downed victim and began to repeatedly pummel him as his child began to cry her eyes out. "Oh my God! Someone should help him. I'm calling the police on." One would-be whistleblower was punched in the face as he tried to run in the opposite direction and was dragged to the floor where he, too, was beaten viciously by thugs as they kicked and pounded on him. Naruto was about to step in when Shikamaru grabbed his elbow. "Hold on, we need to call back up," the shadow user told him. He then pressed the radio attached around his neck and called for help. "This is Naro. We've got trouble in the casino district, and it's looking pretty ugly. Nakamura here." "Nara, we'll be right there. So am I. The police lieutenant with me has already dispatched a few officers," Tsurugaku added through the radio a second later. Naruto gritted his teeth as one of the thugs proceeded to rob the man off wallet and offer the cash to the ringleader. The leader counted the money and by the look of his angered expression, the amount was insufficient. With but a mere nod to one of his thugs, they all reached for their swords. "Shikamaru!" Naruto growled at his partner, clenching his fists and gritting his teeth as the thugs held up their bloodied and bruised victim on his knees for public execution. "Shikamaru, go!" Naruto didn't need to be told twice and dashed forward just as one of the thugs raised his blade and brought it down for a decapitating stroke. Naruto was faster and deflected the blade with his tanto with an icy expression on his face. Clang! "What the fuck?" Naruto's nose flared with the disgusting stench of cheap liquor and tobacco smoke as he entered a stalemate with the sword-brandishing thug, holding his tanto in a reverse grip. Naruto easily overpowered the thug, with his tanto in one hand as he reared back his right hand for a palm thrust under his left arm. Repusho, the powerful blast of wind hurled the man off his feet and launched him into a stall. Naruto instantly turned around and swung his tanto-wielding fist backwards in his would-be attacker's face, causing him to fly into another comrade and knocking them both out. Crack! Just as Naruto turned around, he found himself staring a massive earth-encrusted fist, a split second before it smashed into his face and sent him crashing through a wall. Naruto's head was spinning as he found himself lying on dinner table in restaurant, of which all the patrons fled outside. "Ugh, hi there," he said to the attractive brunette whose meal he had interrupted as he looked up. "Yeah, you should probably get out while you still can." And get out she did, as though the devil himself was after her. Naruto got out of the wreckage that had once been a booth in the expensive-looking restaurant as the woman hightailed out of there. The wall he came crashed through gave away and the tall, trench-coat-wearing man stormed inside. "Do you know who you're fucking with? I'm Gantetsu, a captain of Kurodagumi." Gantetsu was incredibly tall, easily standing at 6 feet 7 inches, wearing an all-white, expensive-looking, and stained, high-collar trench coat over a yellow shirt and blue tie. The Yakuza's right hand was still encrusted in jagged rock, making it bigger than Naruto's head. "A Konoha? Gantetsu seemed genuinely surprised for a moment, but then his gaze turned into a snarl. "I thought we had a fucking deal." "It doesn't matter, it's your funeral. Just remember, I'm not some low-life thug. I was an elite chunin back in IWA, so prepare yourself for death." Blood ran down the side of Naruto's face. It stung his eyes, but he kept them open. Another one of those hit, and he would probably pass out, and then he'd really be in trouble. "What do you mean we had a deal?" Gantetsu wasn't interested in answering that question. Growling like the monster he was, as with a mere flex of his muscles his entire body was covered in a thick earthy crust. "Not good." Naruto as Gantetsu decided to rush forward with his gigantic earth-covered hand. Naruto flipped backwards onto the table and continued to perform a series of acrobatic flips to avoid the rampaging rogue shinobi/Yakuza boss. Naruto made a tiger hand seal and drew a deep breath, his chest swelling up significantly as he prepared a fire jutsu. The stream of fire never erupted his mouth, however, as Gantetsu proved to be considerably faster than he appeared and grabbed Naruto's face in his gigantic hand, canceling out the jutsu. "Eat this." The Yakuza boss slammed Naruto into the ground, A satisfying crack indicated some broken bones, confirmed by Naruto's scream of pain as a powerful sensation coursed through him. This is what you get for interfering with our affairs, Konoha dog. Gentetsu reared back his left hand and it shifted into an even bigger earth fist as the IWA rogue held Naruto by the neck with his right. His earth-crusted hand was so large it covered most of the blonde's torso. Kengan no Jutsu, Naruto narrowly avoided the attack, forcing an enormous amount of chakra through his body to pull off a shunshin fast enough to ensure he avoids certain death. His escape did not come without a price tag, however, as the muscle fatigue slowed his reaction and allowed Gentetsu to land a glancing hit as the floor he had just vacated exploded in a rain of earth spikes, of which one nicked him in the arm. Naruto grunted but persevered, reacting on pure instincts as he withdrew a flash tag and lodged in the ceiling. Arg! Fortunately, Gentetsu's height made him an easy target, and the blinding light set off by the flash tag bought Naruto some time. The blonde jumped up and planted his feet on the ceiling as Gentetsu continued to go berserk and literally run down the walls in the restaurant, unable to find his prey. Naruto exhaled a deep, thankful of the QB as his dislocated shoulder popped back into its socket on its own accord. That Kengan Jutsu, it's supposed to be an Iwagakure Jutsu, isn't it? It was one of those rare moments Naruto could actually recall something useful from his academy days. Earth is weak to lightning. Fuck, there's only one way to finish this bastard off. Naruto reached into holster and withdrew a lone kunai blade, detaching himself from the ceiling and landing lightly on his feet just about as the giant regained his sight. You little fuck, where are you? Gentetsu shouted. Right here, motherfucker. Naruto threw the kunai at the Yakuza captain just he turned around. Kunai Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Midair the kunai began to multiply at a rapid rate, similar to a body of cells undergoing mitosis. Gentetsu raised his arms in front of him in an X-shaped guard. You'll have to do better than that to pierce my armor, brat. Gentetsu came to regret those words not a second later as he suddenly was blasted back by the unexpected detonation of an exploding tag. Fuck, though he was largely unscathed, the smoke provided Naruto with enough cover to execute the second step of his plan. With a quick hand seal, a clone popped into existence and made a beeline for Gentetsu, jumping on his back and wrapping its arm and legs around the IWA Nukenin like a boa constrictor just as it began glowing white. Naruto! Shikamaru shouted from the entrance, having dispatched thugs outside. Naruto's eyes widened and set off instantly, emulating his clone and making a beeline for Shikamaru, who he tackled just as the Naruto clone detonated. Shika, get down! Boom! The explosion blasted Naruto and Shikamaru out of the establishment due to their proximity. The restaurant simply collapsed as all its support pillars gave in, causing its structure to completely give away and collapse with a series of earth-shaking tremors. Naruto coughed, completely covered in dust and dirt as he rolled off Shikamaru, whom he had been forced to protect with his body. You alright, Shikamaru? Naruto fell on his behind, breathing heavily. Shikamaru opened his eyes, considerably less covered in dust. Yeah. I'm just Andy, he replied sarcastically. Looks like our backup arrived already. It was true, Gentetsu's thugs were being subdued by police forces that outnumbered them, thus quite a few surrendered. Naruto got to his feet just as his teammates arrived. What took you guys so long? We got here as fast as we could, Hayes retorted as he helped up Shikamaru. Then turning to his partner he said, Ray, take a look at their injuries. I'll call Surugaku. There's no need for that. Their squad leader had just arrived and he didn't look pleased in the slightest as he was accompanied by another policeman with a lieutenant badge embroiled on his blue kimono. Hayate-san explained to me that the new Yakuza in town are led by rogue shinobi from IWA. We were going to organize a joint mission to take them all out at their compound, but you just went ahead and blew that plan out of the water there, didn't you, Uzumaki? I'm so sorry for stopping that bastard executing a man cause his coat got dirty. Naruto replied sarcastically as Ray gave him a quick look over for injuries. A vein popped up by Surugaku's cheek and he said coldly, You're a malcontent and a liability to this team, Uzumaki, and it's about time you realize that. Thanks to you those thugs know we're coming for them. Who knows how many of their high-ranked members will go under now. Yeah, it would have looked just fucking fabulous on your record, wouldn't it, Taicho? Naruto spat with venom. You don't actually care about helping anyone here but yourself. As long as you come out smelling like daisies, you don't give a fuck who else stuck in the shit. Surugaku's nostrils flared. That's enough out of you. Yes, is it? Ray interrupted their tirade at one another. This isn't helping. She gave both of them a hard stare. We need to get our act together and think about what we're doing next. Has anyone actually identified the body? Shit! Naruto looked to Shikamaru and then to the pile of debris that had once been the restaurant. Gentetsu's body wasn't found. It appeared the giant was even quicker than Naruto had thought, or tougher they didn't know, nor did it truly matter. What mattered was the fact he had gotten away and they had no idea how he did, or if he had help. With Gentetsu on the run, the odds were likely he would come back with more of his comrades, and from what Naruto was hearing, it wasn't going to be pretty. IWA dogs always got a backup plan, Hayes noted with a scowl on his face. It reminded Naruto how much Konoha in general hated Iwagakure. He hadn't conformed to the line of thought since he was the one being hated his entire life and blindly hating IWA or anyone else for that matter, without knowing why, Naruto knew would be hypocritical, even as a child. Team 312 convened in the alley behind the destroyed establishment, and were standing in circle as they discussed their next course of action, whilst the police force was busy clearing the rubble and taking statements from witnesses. Gentetsu will probably come back with more of his thugs and ringleaders of the Kurodagumi. We have no idea when he'll dare to show face around here, so we'll have to collaborate even more with the police force. During our fight, he said something about a deal. The way he was talking, it was like we weren't supposed to be here. Isn't that strange? Why wouldn't he expect Konoha to be here when it's so close to Konoha? And you didn't mention this earlier because of what exactly? Tsurugaku snapped at him with ire. Naruto didn't even have to say it out loud. It was perfectly clear to the entire team their ambitious squad leader would naturally jump at the chance of revealing corruption at the top of ranks within Tanzakugai's police force. It would do wonders for his career, perhaps even earn him that promotion he had yearned for so long. Naruto shrugged. It was a fair point. There wasn't much he could say to defend himself from not reporting that tidbit of information sooner. Sorry about that. Sorry doesn't cut it, Uzumaki. You're in enough trouble as it is. Don't think for a second I won't report the collateral damage you caused either, Tsurugaku told him without so much a hint as sympathy for the situation he had been put in. Hey, that wasn't my fault. Gentetsu did most of the destroying, Shikamaru can testify to that. Naruto gritted his teeth. What the hell was this guy's problem? Since day one he had been nothing but a condescending a-hole to Naruto, but he hadn't expected the guy to be actively out to hurt his career like that. The fact they were about to publicly execute a man without so much a hint of fear for reprisals by the police can only mean they've got high-ranking figures on their payroll. Most likely if they have one of ours on their payroll, they'll have contacts in the police force. Ray nodded. I agree with Nara-san. We should be careful how we conduct this investigation. I think it would be in our best interest if he keep an eye on the police just as much as on thugs. That's impossible, Hayes shook his head. We don't have the manpower for an operation that big. Shikamaru and Ray looked at Naruto, prompting the Chunin to ask, What's that look about? Manpower won't be a problem. I can change my number from 1 to 1,000 if I want to. That's absurd. Not now, Saru. Hayes cut him off. You were saying? He then asked Naruto. You're talking about clones, aren't you? Naruto nodded. Give me a clear area and I'll give you as much manpower as you want. How? Regular Bunshin won't cut it. They're see-through and they're mutes. What's so funny? Naruto made a hand seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 2 clones appeared on either side of Naruto with identical cocky smirks as Hayes and Tsurugaku both did a double take. What the fuck? Hayes exclaimed. That jutsu is forbidden. Tsurugaku hissed at Naruto as though he had just witnessed a heinous crime. That kinjutsu, how did you get your hands on it? This wasn't in your file. Tsurugaku took a deep breath and then hissed at Naruto. Why wasn't this in your file? Like I said, a lot of things I can do aren't in those files, Naruto replied coolly, taking great pleasure in squashing his team's negative presumptions of him once and for all. And before you decide to add that to the list of charges you'll bring against me, know that I have permission from the Hokage himself to use this jutsu. He claims to be able to create 1,000 of these, Ray informed their squad leader, patting a Naruto clone on the shoulder to feel his solidity. According to Nara, his claim isn't false. It isn't, Naruto confirmed, not taking his eyes off Tsurugaku, who was immensely disturbed by the information. Why can't we feel you've got so much chakra? Hayes asked with an underlining tone of doubt. Then again, who could blame him? 1,000 Kage Bunshin was unheard of, and to be told a supposedly dead last, no-talent kid like Naruto was capable of such a feat was hard to believe. Downright unfathomable even. Naruto shrugged. He didn't truly know the answer to that. I've always known how to suppress my chakra. It just comes naturally to me. Don't ask me why, because I don't know either, it just does. On that notion, Naruto had to wonder if this was a side effect, the seal on his stomach that kept the Kyuubi at bay. Jiraiya had mentioned it segregating his chakra from the Kyuubis, or something like that. Naruto wasn't paying attention at the time. Anyway, are we going to do this Ray-chan's way or what? Shikamaru stifled a bemused chuckle and nodded. I think it's a good idea, though you'll need to make sure you clones don't take the same appearance, Naruto. That won't be a problem. Tsurugaku finally regained his composure and cleared his throat to demand their attention. Do it. We'll resume this mission as a team. While your clones look for the targets, we'll go see the police representative that gave me these bogus files. Tsurugaku held up files that indicated the falsified records of decreased crime. We'll give him a shakedown, see what he has for us. If he cooperates, we can have this mission cleared by tonight, and be on our way back by tomorrow. Hayes checked his watch. It's 3 p.m., we need to hurry if we want to wrap this up ASAP. Then let Shikamaru take charge, Naruto suggested, receiving curious looks from all of his teammates, including the perpetually idle Kage main user. Look, Shikamaru is smarter than all of us combined. You give him a location, a time and numbers and he'll give you 50 solid strategies on how to handle the situation. Naruto knew he was exaggerating, though he wasn't sure by how much. Shikamaru was a pretty damn good tactician. I don't want to sound cowardly, but that one guy nearly knocked head off my shoulders. Who knows what kind of types he hangs out with? Shikamaru glanced at Naruto with a nod and then looked at Tsurugaku. He makes a point, Tsurugaku Taicho. I don't want to usurp you, that would be too troublesome, but if we want this raid executed flawlessly, we should pool our resources. Do it. Though he conceded, Tsurugaku didn't seem pleased in the slightest with having to admit to be the inferior tactician by letting Shikamaru take the lead on planning their next course of action. Oh, Tanzakugai Police Department, top floor. Ashoka Kaken enjoyed a comfortable life. At the ripe age of 53, he was married into a wealthy family through his wife. He enjoyed many pleasures in life. He had money in the bank, a nice house and a beautiful wife amongst a sea of mistresses and even some luxury estates abroad. His sons were prodigious and at top of their class. His eldest had just passed his training and become a full-fledged member of the police force, and would one day take his place. His daughters were beautiful and desirable stock for breeding, thus the dowry would further ensure he could enjoy a comfortable life after retirement. As the chief of Tanzakugai's police force, Ashoka was the most reputable member of the brass. With 5,000 men under his command, not many of the city's populace dared to bring up any alleged bribe-taking or corruption charges, not even the whistleblowers of the magistrates. Men with righteous moral compasses were becoming increasingly rare as more just disappeared, never to be seen or heard of again. Ah yes, life was good for Ashoka Kaken. Power, money, influence, fear of the masses. With these tools at his disposal, Ashoka Kaken was the most powerful man in Tanzakugai. Not even the Kurodagumi, a yakuza recently taken over by a band of Nukenin from IWA who continued to keep the yakuza thugs in their employment, dared to displease him. Perhaps yakuza was no longer the correct term to apply to them. Not now. They were led by shinobi, and shinobi never stopped being shinobi, no matter how they claimed otherwise. Regardless, the Kurodagumi had risen to prominence under the leadership of the rogue ninja. However, before long Ashoka had them cornered. Up against a 5,000-strong legion of policemen, not even the Nukenin stood a chance. Fortunately, for the both of them, Ashoka realized they weren't stupid. No, it was actually quite refreshing to deal with intellectual minds for once. The Kurodagumi came to understand who the man in charge was and were now responsible for the additional 500,000 ryo in his personnel safe in his mansion every week. With them keeping his adversaries in check whilst keeping him happy with his weekly tribute, Ashoka was content with allowing these thugs to maintain their opium trafficking and racketeering. As long as they knew who the boss was, the light on his console burned red. What is it? Ashoka asked as he pressed the console button. Ashoka-sama, I have a Shizudano on the line. Will you take his call? No, tell him I will call him. Crash. No sooner had Ashoka taken his finger off the button, did 5 shinobi crash through the windows behind his desk and to his right and one through the roof. Ashoka trembled. A tanto was mere inches away from his throat, held steady by the blonde teenager who came crashing from his roof and landed on his desk as his 4 accomplices took their positions, one closing the door, another throwing kunai with explosive tags wrapped around them in each corner of the office. A tall man with sandy blonde hair approached him. He appeared to be in his 20s. Chief Ashoka, my name is Tsurugaku Tsuzumi. Tsurugaku looked to Naruto and nodded, prompting the young man to sheath his tanto and reach for ninja wire. We know all about your deal with the Kurodagumi, recently taken over by a group of IWA Nukenin. Earlier today, you had one of your lieutenants supplying me with falsified records of decreased crime rates. While this happened, My team encountered a public execution of an innocent civilian by a member of the Kurotagumi we believe to go by the name of Gentetsu. That son of a bitch. I knew that loose cannon was going to be trouble at some point. Good, you're not going to bother with claiming ignorance. Tsurugaku sat down on the man's desk, shoving aside his files on the floor where they laid in a heap. Uzumaki, I believe that's enough wire. He won't be going anywhere. Naruto nodded and drew back, standing next to Rei, who nodded to him. We need to hurry up, there's a few of them coming up. They mentioned they had a meeting scheduled today, something about budget plans. How do you know this? Ashika demanded. Naruto smiled eerily, tapping the side of his head. You're right. It says here he's got a meeting scheduled. Tsurugaku threw aside Ashika's leather-bound agenda and reached into his pouch and withdrew a crimson and gold-rimmed baton. Chief, you're going to call your secretary and have her cancel all of your meetings for today. And why would I do that, pray tell, Tsurugaku-san? It didn't come as a surprise the chief kept his cool. He was an experienced officer after all. Why would I listen to you, I was hoping you would say that, chief. Tsurugaku gripped and twisted the top of his baton and took off the detachable cap, revealing the metal contraption under it. It appeared to be a lighter of sorts, or a blowtorch perhaps. This is something demolition experts such as myself refer to as a heat stick. Would you like to know why? Ashika scoffed with faux bravado and leaned back into his chair as Tsurugaku got off his desk, exerting as much movement as the ninja wire allowed him. Not particularly. Tsurugaku slowly sauntered over and smiled mirthlessly. Using this fine piece of technology, we use a little chakra manipulation to generate a spark. This spark turns into fire, and through the mechanics of the heat stick we, for all intents purposes, are wielding a blowtorch with a heat output of 1300 degrees Celsius. As you can imagine, the heat stick can be a powerful tool of interrogation. Just imagine the skin on your bones melting away, and that's only a fraction of what this thing is capable of. Ashika swallowed thickly, breaking out in sweat. Perhaps we can discuss this in a more civilized manner, Tsurugaku-san. I am sure we can find a middle ground. No, Tsurugaku said coldly. You are going to tell us everything you know about the Kurotagumi. Names, locations, everything. Do you understand? Ashika nodded repeatedly, muttering incoherently under his breath. Good, now call your secretary and tell her to clear your schedule. Do it now. With a trembling finger, Ashika pressed the button on his console. Tsubaki, clear my schedule for the rest of the day and go home. Ashika-sama, are you sure? You're scheduled for a meeting with union representatives in 10 minutes and magistrate representatives in another hour. A snap hiss. Bluish flames erupted from the heat stick in Tsurugaku's hand as he nodded slowly. Just do as I say, Tsubaki. I employed you to manage my schedule, not to question my orders, do you understand? Now do it, or you're fired. Of course, Ashika-sama. Naruto looked around the room and noticed a framed picture Ashika's desk and picked up. So even this guy can be a loving father, Naruto noted as he took the happy family on the picture. It brought him on another train of thought. Is anyone home expecting you? And no! And put that down. Naruto flung the frame out of the window. Oops. It got him a disapproving look from Rei and Tsurugaku, but he didn't particularly care. Hurry it up. The police union representatives are arguing with the secretary, and it looks like they're about to barge up here. Tsurugaku nodded and put the heat stick away. Everything you know, right now. Crack. Naruto shook his fist with a satisfied smile as Ashika fell down along with his chair, a fat bruise forming on his temple as his toupee slid of his fat head. We can't let him off without a scratch. It'll make him think even we're afraid of touching him, Naruto elaborated as his team looked at him with questionable expressions. The warehouse they use as a compound isn't too far from here. Tsurugaku took a look at the framed map on the wall, pointing at the industrial section of Tanzakugai. Let's get there quick. The Yakuza thugs aren't going to be a problem. It's the 5 ringleaders including Gentetsu that will be tough to beat. If Gentetsu is the weakest of them like Ashika claims, then this is going to be tough. We need to make sure we take advantage of the element of surprise. I can scare of the Yakuza if I create 1,000 Kage Bunshin. I'll believe that when I see it, Uzumaki. Tsurugaku derisively cut him off. Until then, don't expect me to take your word for anything you claim you can do. Half tempted to take him up on that offer, Naruto threw his hands in the air. Fine, don't believe me. Do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. I'll just hang back and prove my worth to you once and for all when the opportunity arises. Let's stay focused here. Shikamaru called for attention as he crouched with his hands folded in his thinking position. If it's a warehouse, it's a confined space. If we come in hard and fast, we can take them out quick and easy. What have you got in mind? Hayes asked. In response, Shikamaru walked over to the door and pulled open, standing face to face with several of the police force's brass. Your chief is corrupt, Shikamaru informed bluntly, gesturing to unconscious Ashoka bound up in his chair. We were sent here to conduct an investigation. We discovered the paperwork your chief had been submitting to our government were packed with lies. The police union representatives looked to each other and began to talk at the same time, but Shikamaru held up his hand. We're not interested in you. Whether we include you as corrupt officials in our report is entirely up to us. Of course, we can be persuaded to leave you out of it. What do you want? Asked the union leader. Shikamaru smirked. That's what I want to hear. Oh, Tanzakugai, Industrial District. In a poorly lit warehouse, the sound of repeated blows to flesh rang, followed by bemused sniggering and laughs and painful grunts. Gentetsu was knelt before another figure with blood streaming down his face. He appeared to have endured a fierce beating and was breathing heavily as the warehouse full of thugs and 4 other shinobi looked down upon him with contempt. How many times have I told you to watch it? Hissed the man towering above him, promptly striking him again with a silver cane in his hand. Your job is to keep the people under control, to let them know who's in charge. Not to carry out public executions for everyone including Konoha to see. Boss, please. Gentetsu uttered through the pain. I'm sorry, let me take care of this. If I make them disappear before they can report anything. SSSSSHHHH. What is that? The man hissed from the shadows. His silver cane hovered mere inches from Gentetsu's head. Fire bared down as a large circle was carved into the roof by a sword of fire. You fool! Shouted Gentetsu's boss, striking him once more. You were followed? Crash! The ceiling gave away with a loud explosion and a teenage boy with blonde gravity-defying hair and blue eyes flipped in the air with a red baton in his hand, emitting a stream of blue flames. Holy shit, this thing is awesome! Naruto deactivated and twirled the heat stick between his fingers. I'm keeping this. Oh, am I interrupting something? Naruto was a sucker for dramatic entrances. Who is this? The Konoha that bested you, Gentetsu. The mysterious figure stepped forward in the moonlight, revealing himself to be a tall, silver cane-wielding man with a gas mask, spiky gray hair and brown eyes and dressed in black shinobi garb under expensive-looking robes. He's a mere boy, Kijiri-sama. This kid didn't beat me. Whack. Gentetsu made a whimpering noise, holding his head in pain. Silence, Gentetsu. Kijiri strode forward to Naruto, standing fully in the ray of moonlight. I assume your allies are waiting outside for the signal to attack? Naruto's eyes darted from left to right, counting several dozen Yakuza thugs. Do you have any idea who I am? No, but that's really a cool gas mask, Naruto responded cheekily. Seriously, where do you get those, anyway? I mean, now that I think of it, that's a really handy piece of equipment. You never known when you could use one of those. Silence. My name is Kijiri, Iwa's former Jinyasha, and you, boy, are out of your league. Kijiri strode closer to Naruto and leveled his silver cane. A silver cane? Come on, you've got to admit, that's pretty lame. Naruto jeered with a sour expression. As expected, the look on Kijiri betrayed his next move and Naruto braced himself for an head-on attack he anticipated. Gentetsu's eyes widened as Kijiri closed in on Naruto with his cane. As Naruto caught it in one hand and smirked at Gentetsu what was about to happen next. Boss, get out of the way! Gentetsu surged forward as Naruto began to glow. Boom! Go! Naruto jumped down the hole in the roof and landed in the warehouse, back to back with the rest of his team. I really need to thank Gigi properly for giving me that variation of the Kage Bunshin. Naruto held up his hands in an unconventional hand seal. The warehouse was mostly intact, scattered with the bodies of some Yakuza thugs and a huge crater in the concrete floor. The majority of the thugs were alive though, getting to their feet covered in dust and swearing profoundly as they reached for their swords. What is the meaning of this? Kijiri hissed and pushed Gentetsu away, bleeding somewhat but nowhere near as damaged as the large figure of Gentetsu whose rock armor had been almost completely shaven off and was bleeding profusely. Boss, are you alright? Gentetsu crouched to his knees, wheezing as he struggled to breathe. Naruto frowned. That guy just risked his life to save his boss? Who would have guessed Nuke-nin are capable of loyalty like that? Kurotegumi, you have declared yourself as enemies of Hai no Kuni through illegal opium trafficking and other criminal charges, Tsurugaku announced, holding a kunai in a reverse grip in both hands. I will extend to you one opportunity to surrender. If you do not come quietly you will be subdued and your punishment will be much more severe. Kijiri growled menacingly and made a summoning gesture. Gentetsu, get to your feet. Rosaria, Kagero, Kiho. Aid me against these Konoha dogs. 3 figures that had previously stood in the shadows appeared next to their boss. One of them was an attractive woman in a pink and black robe. The other a tall muscular man in shinobi trousers and a karate gi with ripped-off sleeves, and lastly a dwarf-sized man with gray skin, a dark cloak and goggles and an oversized wrist launcher. Naruto's eyes narrowed as the Yakuza began to surround them. Shikamaru. Crash. Just on time, Shikamaru said as the doors of the warehouse blew wide open and the police force rushed inside and ran towards the thugs. As the police rushed up the thugs, Kijiri snarled. That fat fool Ashika betrayed us. Kijiri pulled one of his henchmen by the scruff of the neck and pushed him towards the policeman and Konoha. Kill them! Kill them all! Kijiri promptly charged forward with his 4 lieutenants, Gentetsu considerably slower but hot on his heels as they clashed. Oh, Naruto versus Kijiri. The police and Yakuza shouted battle cries as they engaged one another. Naruto left the rest to handle the small fray and met Kijiri head-on with his tanto in one hand and a kunai another and a cross-shaped guard against his opponent's silver cane. Just tell me something, Naruto gritted through his teeth, pushing Kijiri back with limited effort. What's with the cane? I suppose it can't hurt to show you something extraordinary beautiful before you die. Kijiri distanced himself with fleeting swipe to keep Naruto on his toes and held up his cane in a horizontal guard as he trailed his palm over its smooth cylindrical shape. Gold is supposedly the most valuable mineral on Earth, but I have always preferred silver. It is more durable and practical, yet society overlooks these qualities due to their vanity and obsession with that what they perceive as beautiful and valuable. Sometimes the best of qualities of men are also overlooked. It was why I deserted IWA, to come here and be my own boss. Kijiri went through several sweeping motions with the cane. Back in IWA they called me Jinyasha. Out here they call me Kijiri no Jinsu, a perhaps not so fitting epitaph as I am capable of far more than just canes, boy. Naruto's eyes narrowed as Kijiri leveled the cane in his direction, and a split second later the cane shot out and morphed in an extremely lengthy spear. Naruto jumped high over it, and Kijiri was upon him instantly, the spear now a long and thin sword seemingly capable of slicing the wind itself. Naruto brought up a guard with the tanto in his left hand and chucked the kunai at Kijiri, but even at this close distance the silver demon was able to narrowly avoid it with a jerk of his head. Naruto was rewarded with a powerful smash in the side of the head from Kijiri's guard. Naruto backflipped midair and skidded slightly over the ground as the fighting continued to rage on. Fuck, no time to think. Naruto's hands went through the motions purely on instinct after spending thousands of clone hours on this particular jutsu. Katan, Ryuka no Jutsu. With flawless expertise, Naruto's chest swelled up as his lungs filled up with air and a stream of fire erupted from his mouth with just the right amount of chakra used to spark his flames. That seemed to do the trick, for a second. Kijiri was fast, a lot faster than Naruto had anticipated him to be. The silver cane-wielding Yakuza boss darted to the left, and speedily appeared next to Naruto with his silver sword swung in a decapitating strike. Naruto sunk through the ground much to Kijiri's surprise, and as the swordsman's eyes widened, Naruto emerged from the ground behind him and aimed a powerful strike for the kidneys. Kijiri gasped as he fell to one knee, but before Naruto could follow up with another he was struck in the face by Kijiri's weapon, now morphed back into a cane. That silver manipulation ability of his doesn't sound dangerous in theory, but it sure as hell is in practice. Naruto nursed a gash on his cheek whilst Kijiri got to his feet. Not only that, he's incredibly fast. He's no Lee, but with an ability like that he doesn't need to be either. Naruto sure as hell hoped his teammates were faring better than he was as he rolled over his shoulders to avoid a lunge. Oh, Tsurugaku vs. Gentetsu, die! Gentetsu swung a massive fist towards the wall. It instantly gave away, giving him space to run outside the warehouse with his opponent hot on his heels. You're not going anywhere, you oversized brute. Tsurugaku was upon the giant, wielding several kunai with ninja wire attached to them. The seasoned Chunin hurled the projectiles at Gentetsu as he tried to run for it, and easily halted his movements with a web of ninja wire to which he added another salvo shuriken and some more ninja wire to it. As more projectiles lodged into the earth, the wire pulled tighter on the IWA Nukenin, completely halting his movements and allowing Tsurugaku to take his time in catching up with his prey. Gentetsu's breathing was labored, still suffering from previous injuries at the hands of Naruto and his Kijiri, yet he was still smiling. Looks like you got me. Tsurugaku held a single kunai in one hand, to which all other wires were connected. You won't be smiling for long, IWA scum. Tsurugaku reached into the large pouch on his hip, specifically for his demolition equipment, and withdrew a thick roll of explosive tags. Gentetsu's eyes widened in fear and Tsurugaku smiled condescendingly. Terrifying, isn't it? Tsurugaku mocked as he held the explosive tag roll to the kunai through which all wires connected. Ninpo Bakuhatsu Wana. The roll in Tsurugaku's hand began to rotate wildly as tag after tag seamlessly attached to the kunai and shot up the web of ninja wire. This is where it ends. Tsurugaku raised the kunai above his head and flung to the ground, sinking it up to its hole, and jumped back a few times to distance himself out of the blast radius. Katsu! Boom! The explosion caused a series of small tremors through the ground and chunks of earth flew through the air as black smoke bellowed from the newly formed crater. Tsurugaku exhaled slowly as he approached his fallen victim, but it was until the smoke cleared that his eyes widened. In the middle of the crater, protecting by a huge chunk of earth, was Gentetsu, seemingly unharmed by the explosion. How? Tsurugaku shouted with disbelief. The explosion should have killed you. Heh! Gentetsu smirked as he broke free from the earth's shield, covered in large chunks of jagged pieces of earth. I had you pegged as an arrogant one from the get-go, what with your heroic speech and all. So, I made sure you went after me so I could lure you outside, and while you took your perverted pleasure in slowly setting up my death, I channeled chakra through the ground to pull him minerals I could use to heal myself. Gentetsu burst out in laughter. I played you like a fool. Tsurugaku surged forward with his tanto drawn, rage in his eyes and chucking an explosive tag kunai at him. But Gentetsu did not falter. Instead, the giant swung a giant earth-encrusted fist at Tsurugaku, intercepting the kunai with a chunk of earth, and used the remainders of smoke to blindside Tsurugaku and slammed the Konoha nin in the abdomen, sending him flying into a painful sprawl on the ground. And now you're going to die like a fool. Oh! Shikamaru vs. Kiho. In another part of the warehouse, Shikamaru found himself running through a confined space muttering troublesome like a mantra as his levitating dwarf opponent continued to launch grenade after grenade from his wrist launcher. Bang! 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 Series of explosions followed the shadow user as he ran down the hall. Shikamaru jumped forward and spun fast enough in the air to throw a kunai with an explosive tag attached to it to distract his opponent as he continued to down the hallways of the warehouse. Shikamaru slid on his feet around the corner and reached for more kunai and explosive tags whilst muttering every swear word in the book. Gihahahaha. You can't run now, little mouse. Trick a shadow. Kiho took aim with his wrist launcher and shot 3 canisters at once, 2 bounding of the wall against another and strategically exploding in front of Shikamaru. The explosion sent the shadow user flying back towards Kiho, who took aim once again and shot a large net towards Shikamaru to bag him like a cat. Gihahahaha. The gray-skinned dwarf cackled, only to suddenly find himself incapable of moving. What the? Kagemain no Jutsu success. Shikamaru got to his feet with his hands in the rat hand seal. Kiho was distraught with fear. How did you dash? When you shot that net, I decided to wing it and use the shadow cast by the net as a medium to catch you. Looks like I'm in luck today. I should hit the casinos later. Shikamaru smiled lazily as he took a few steps backwards, looked to the ceiling, forcing Kiho to the same place. Right above Kiho's head were 2 kunai with explosive tags attached to them. When did you throw those up there? Shikamaru yawned lazily. Though it was only logical for you to force me into a confined space so I couldn't escape the blast radius of your grenades, you didn't account for any explosives I might have been carrying. Just before you tried that trick shot, I threw 2 kunai in front of me and 2 behind. The ones I threw behind me were extremely mild variations, and though they wouldn't be lethal for me, they could destroy your grenades and make them inert before they detonated. And what about these 2? Are those 2 mild variations? Kiho's voice shook in fear. Shikamaru shook his head. I ran out of regular explosive tags, so I had to go for these ones. They're considerably more powerful than the usual ones. If I'm not mistaken, once I detonate them, the ceiling will give away and crush you. Wait. I have money. Lots of it. Kiho screamed at Shikamaru. If you let me go, I'll give you as much money as you want. I'll give you every last penny I have. Shikamaru didn't deign to reply and merely smiled in his lazy manner. Bang! The ceiling above Kiho gave away with a loud explosion, and just before the gray-skinned dwarf was buried by the debris, Shikamaru cancelled the jutsu. That's my part done. Yeah, I'll just sit the rest out, Shikamaru sighed as he slumped against the wall with a lazy sigh. Oh, Naruto vs. Kajiri. In the upper levels of the Kurotagumi warehouse, Naruto and Kajiri were still going at it in a heated combat that took them all over the place. Whoosh! Naruto ducked under a swipe to his head and retaliated by burying his fist in Kajiri's stomach, The lanky shinobi-turned-yakuza boss lurched over as saliva dripped down his chin. Naruto followed up with a crushing left hook to the temple to send his opponent crashing headfirst into the wall. He had gotten used to Kajiri's speed and with time managed to exceed it. His opponent's movements became easier to predict, and Naruto fully capitalized on Kajiri's weak taijutsu by delivering as many powerful strikes as he could in quick succession. This guy is nothing like Niji or Gaara, Naruto thought, sidestepped a fencing-like lunge and retaliating with another punch to the kidney. Damn you! Kajiri began swinging his cane erratically, blood and saliva dripping down his chin. This couldn't be happening. How was he losing this badly, to a child no less? I'll kill you! Kajiri screamed as he swung his cane towards Naruto many times. Changing its form wouldn't work, so why bother with wasting chakra? Naruto held up his guard, hopping from foot to foot like a boxer to keep his reflexes sharp. Just give up, you can't beat me. You're going to die if you keep this up, Naruto warned. Kajiri's response was to swing down his cane, but Naruto already saw it coming and dashed forward, planting his left fist deep into Kajiri's stomach and snatching the cane out of his hand with right, following up with a roundhouse kick to knock the older shinobi down. Naruto glared at Kajiri. I can tell from your movements you've gotten rusty since you took over the Kurodagumi. It's still there in your mind. Naruto tapped the side of his head for emphasis, but your body can't keep up with it. You're an easy target for someone like me who hasn't stopped fighting since he started. Enough. I will not stand here and take such disrespectful from a whelp like you, boy. Kajiri bellowed, going through several hand seals. A string of hand seals Naruto recognized, prompting him to swear out loud. Fuck, this ends now. Kajiri cackled. I may have lost some of my skill, but my partner in combat has not. Kuchios no jutsu. Kajiri slammed down his arm on the concrete. It was almost dramatic how he did it, Naruto noted. Poof! The building shook and the ceiling collapsed as a giant pillar of smoke burst into existence, followed by the ear-splitting screech of a creature Naruto could only assume was a giant squirrel. Its fur was platinum blonde, its eyes red, and its claws were twice as long as Naruto was tall and thrice as thick. I have come to serve, Kajiri-sama, the creature resembling a squirrel bellowed. The creature was so big that simply by summoning it, Kajiri had dispelled several of Naruto's clones and sent many yakuza and policemen flying through the air. As fascinating as the creature was, Naruto didn't have much time to admire as Kajiri leveled his cane towards Naruto and commanded the best to attack. The summon obeyed and struck out with large drill-like claws, tearing away at the warehouse building and forcing Naruto to run for it and jump onto rooftops nearby as he escaped. Oh, it is so on! Naruto shouted as he jumped high into the air, jumping from chunk of debris to reach a high enough altitude from which he could determine a safe spot to summon Gamabunta. He had been dying for an excuse to summon the Toad Chief ever since Tsurugaku called him a liar, and this was the perfect opportunity to not only kick his TL in the teeth but to also beat Kajiri. Naruto's hands became blurs as he went through the string of hand seals required and slammed his fast palms below him as though he were trying to touch the ground dozens of feet below. Kuchios no jutsu. Poof! As the smoke cleared up, Naruto was over 100 feet higher in the air, positioned on the head of none other than Gamabunta the Toad Chief. GKI.